Alrighty, welcome everyone to the regular public meeting for the Village Trustees, Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We're going to call this meeting to order and first, pledge allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda review. Number 3, anything to add?
Nothing for me to add.
No?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Number 4, public comment. Anybody have anything to say in public at the moment?
We've got some public here tonight anyway.
I know, that's nice. Almost every chair I can see full almost. Number 5, approve and accept minutes from Monday, April 14th, 2025, meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second to approve the meeting minutes from April 14th. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 6, approve and accept village warrants through Thursday, April 24th, 2025.
I move to approve and accept the village warrants through Thursday, April 24th, 2025.
And I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second to approve the warrants for Thursday, April 24th. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 7, SCI DC update with Tim Smith. Is Tim here tonight?
He's not here yet. I will text him, but if we could skip to number 8 in the interim, that would be great.
All right. Put Tim on the back burner. Number 8, Swanton Village Police Department update with Chief Matthew Sullivan.
Good evening.
Hey, Matt.
Good evening.
Matt.
So you will find 2 packets in front of you for now the village and the town. So just keep in mind that this excludes probably some extra data that occurs outside the village and the town. The way this is pulled. It's also interesting I came across, just to keep aware of the fact that if anything, these numbers are underreported. For example, I came across an incident where we had made an arrest and it just, all the information hadn't been put into the system yet properly. And so again, when we're querying the system and pulling this data, if the data's not in there, it's not gonna pull it. So if anything, these numbers are slightly underreported. We're looking at Swanton Village for March 2025. The top 10 incidents were 26 suspicious, 12 traffic stops, 9 citizen disputes, 9 motor vehicle complaints, 7 juvenile problems, 7 disorderly conduct, 7 domestic, 6 citizen assists, 6 agency assists, and 5 alarms. Out of those, the total incident number was 147 incidents. The 12 traffic stops resulted in 2 tickets and 13 warnings, and actually 2 tickets and 12 warnings were associated with traffic. So one of those is probably a civil ticket associated with either possession of tobacco or something similar to that, associated with MVU. There were 14 arrests total, representing 11 individuals, and 21 charges total. One of those charges, or one of those arrests, was associated with traffic enforcement. So that is your summary for the village for March. Looking at the town, there were 59 incidents. Looking at the top 10 incident types is 16 traffic stops, 11 directed patrols, 4 alarms, 3 motor vehicle complaints, 2 citizen disputes, 2 agency assists, 2 VIN verifications, 2 driving licenses, or I'm sorry, 1 driving license suspended, 1 wanted person, and I'm not sure what the other one is because it's all jumbled together there. But out of those 59 incidents, there were 16 traffic stops, 9 tickets and 15 warnings were associated with the traffic stops. A total of 11 tickets were issued and 17 warnings. There were 4 arrests representing 4 individuals and 9 charges. 2 of the arrests were associated with traffic enforcement. Some of the things that have been going on are that I pushed out 5 new either versions of policies or new policies in their entirety since roughly the beginning of the year. One of them was right at the end of last year, running into this year. So missing persons policy, investigations and criminal procedure policy, domestic violence response policy, grant funded details and extra duty, and then pursuit and vehicle operation, slightly modified version of that policy. There are some other things. So we do have a new part-time officer. She worked as a full-time officer in Massachusetts for 3 years before moving up to Northern New York. So we have onboarded her. She's in the process of field training right now, and she's been through the part-time academy, but still needs to take the other requisite classes to get off her provisional certification and have a full-time police level 2 certification. And then we're looking to get her waived to a level 3 also. So we are, I believe she's got a young family, so right now she's only interested in part-time, but I think she'd be interested in coming on full-time in the future once her children are a little older. So she's a really good hire. We have a few others that have expressed interest. We have one officer who worked here for 11 years who is considering coming back. I think I heard as of last night and today, given changes at his current job, he may be very interested in coming back quickly. So at a minimum, he's going to come back on a part-time basis and hopefully a full-time basis, because he's got a lot of experience, and again, it would be easy. I mean, he stayed on part-time with us, then decided he didn't have the time to dedicate to cover shifts. So I think technically we removed him at the beginning of 2024, even though I don't know that he worked all that much in 23, but he may look to come back full-time. So that's positive also. Some of the other things that have been going on are, we've had actually a lot of traffic enforcement going into next month. I want to say when I looked at it today, we had 65 traffic stops total between the town and the village. So that's a good example of a force multiplier. So some of our part-time officers have been coming in and working governor's highway safety sharp detail, operation enforcement details. So it's a huge help as far as addressing the traffic issues and the deviant driving behavior in both the village and the town. So those numbers, we're going to continue to address that. And then with the break in the weather, finally, we're getting issues with ATVs again. As expected, it's kind of seasonal. And there's, people just don't understand the difference between the town and the village and where they can operate ATVs. So that's an issue. And then, some other issues as far as obviously traffic is a concern, the way people operate, sometimes excessive speed, certainly outside of the village itself and the town. And so one of the things we were discussing right before the meeting tonight is really engineering is the best way to address that. I mean, we can get out there and enforce all we want, but you're still going to get deviant behavior when we're around. Taking enforcement action, people are still going to sometimes drive inappropriately. So wherever we can address those issues, a good example of it is actually what DPW did with Merchants Row and the curbing. So we were getting complaints about vehicles coming up the hill and at excessive rates of speed and then entering Merchants Row and just going straight down Church Street at a high rate of speed. Now I think with that additional curbing and that engineering essentially, it's narrowed the entrance there and it's going to slow people down. So that's a good example of some, I think, good engineering to address traffic issues.
It hasn't been hit yet. Chief, great job responding to folks, and this is for the public. If you have issues with traffic and speeding, you got to call us. We got 2 calls today, and I think you were able to go to Linda Avenue and do a couple hours with 2 different officers. And then tonight in the town on Bushy Road, we hear the complaint, we respond immediately. But if we don't hear from people, and we only see it on Facebook 5 days later, it really doesn't do us any good. So seriously, call right away, call the PD. If there's an incident, something you need a response to, call. They've been doing a really good job with traffic enforcement, so thank you.
Yeah, and now, again, it's really pretty difficult in the wintertime, a lot of times to do it. I mean, we don't have really adequate shoulders on the roadways here in the town, and the town in particular, where you get those higher rates of speed. So it is very dangerous as far as trying to engage in traffic enforcement because you're essentially taking up a lane of travel And if people are coming around sort of a slow corner and then all of a sudden you're there at a dead stop, it creates issues. So now with the weather breaking a little bit, it gives us a little more leeway and a little more room. So we'll be out there addressing traffic issues.
Any thoughts on the suspicious person, the number? It just, that kind of stuck out to
So
me.
it's, it's a catch-all call
Yeah.
type, so that's the issue with it. So whenever anybody sees something that doesn't quite fit within what they expect to be normal, they're calling, and so it could be any number of different things. I would have to look at each one of those incidents to see what they were, but it is a catch-all. And again, it's a good example of, sometimes data in not being washed appropriately. So you'll get a call for service, it'll come in as something, and then I'm relying on the officers to appropriately change the call type, and sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It turns into something else entirely.
Right. And it's, it's a good example of people calling in too.
Yes.
That's the big thing,
Yeah. Which is good, and
as Bill
Village
said.
Manager Sheets just addressed it. I mean, that's the problem, is people love to use social media, and it can be very helpful for us, but the issue is if we don't get a call at the time. We've had several incidents over the last couple of years where it turns into kind of this back and forth on social media between different parties, and we never even got a call at the time that the incident was occurring, where we could have addressed that and dealt with it in a timely manner. And then where it makes our job more difficult, because a lot of times then we are following up after the fact, but it's after the
Right.
fact.
It's
So
after the
those
fact,
people may be gone. We're then trying to figure out who they are. Which actually happened to me today at Hannaford's. It was over Saturday evening when they were closing. They had somebody try to push out approximately, they said $600 worth of groceries. We didn't get a call at the time, which would have been great because we could have dealt with it. But now we're gonna have to try to do some follow-up and figure out who these people were, and then hold them accountable for behavior like that.
Sean, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say what Bill was saying, give us a call. I just wanna point out the phone number to call, obviously you're an emergency 911, but what is the phone number for like the non-emergency line, and can we just say that on?
Yeah, go ahead,
It's
Chief.
868-4100 is the non-emergency call, and that gets you directly to our dispatch center. They will be answering the phone, so it's essentially almost just as good as 911. 911 goes into a 911 dispatch center, which is handled by, I don't even know if Central is a PSAP for the state.
They are.
I'm not exactly sure. So it may be going to the same place anyway. But in any case, which quite frankly, it can create problems, because I can tell you this from my experience in Burlington. It would go to Williston PSAP, and so they're the call taker initially answering the call. And then what they're doing is they're linking Burlington dispatch. So now the Burlington dispatcher is on the phone listening to what the 911 PSAP operator is doing. And then it turns into this, well, when does the Burlington dispatcher take over the call? It almost creates a delay.
Yeah.
But it's still a great system. It's the best system we have. So 911 in serious emergencies is always the best bet. And then 868-4100 for non-emergent calls.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Up until what time,
Well, we're 24/7 for the village, right? So anytime our officers are on call, but we operate kind of like the Vermont State Police, in that we are on the road until 2 a.m. in both the village and the
If
town.
I call 868 number, 4100,
They're gonna
it's
answer.
at 5 o'clock
Oh yeah, they're gonna pick up the phone.
here. Here,
At 5 a.m., no, central dispatch we use out of St. Albans.
and
So-
5 PM,
Any time of day, 24/7.
it all goes to St. Louis.
It does.
Because we have a dispatching contract with them, so that's part of their service that they provide.
Yeah.
Right, but I didn't know if you had someone here.
No, well, we do have an admin assistant now, but she won't handle the dispatch. It's central, they'll dispatch us by radio or through the mobile data. Yeah, but 24/7, you can call either number and you'll get a response.
All right, thank you.
Good.
Any other questions from you? Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief, appreciate it.
Number 9, motion to open public hearing on a new vote for electric facility.
I'll move we open the public meeting, or the public hearing on the new vote for the electric facility.
And I will second that motion.
All right, we have a first and a second to open the public meeting, our hearing for the new vote for electric facility. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Meeting open.
So while we fired up here, we're gonna have Team Connor come on up, and Swan Electric, that's you two, come on up. Just maybe over in this area, I'm gonna get poster boards while we're pulling up the PowerPoint.
Thank you for.
You want us here or somewhere else?
Maybe for this one, facing the crowd, like right here, we're gonna be facing the crowd.
Or moving the table, is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna use the table to, well, you want the table? Sure, let's move the table. Got it? I was gonna put poster boards right there. I'll put them over here. Just didn't need a bigger version. How are we doing on the PowerPoint? It's working, all right. Stand by, please, for technical difficulties.
Yeah, I hit the delete button. What's that from you? That thing?
Peter, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you?
I hit the delete button.
I can email it to you.
Stay in your own, actually, stay in your own backyard.
We'll start without it in a minute, but it's pretty important to have it.
PowerPoint.
It's always that PowerPoint.
Seems to be.
Out of power.
Okay.
No point.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward it to you right now. Okay, you got it. And no reply from Tim Smith, so we'll reschedule.
Yep.
All right. Well, sometimes we just gotta reboot here, right?
Right.
Does anyone need an updated flyer? Because we have a whole bunch right over here. You do? Okay.
I'll take one, Bill, if you have an extra. Bill, I'll take one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not for you. You're allowing me time for the PowerPoint to go. Amy, you know? You can actually have it.
Like they don't know what's going on.
I think they do. This all.
In case you forgot.
Why are you
I
here?
don't know. I think they do. Okay, well, I'll just kick it off. So let's go back a little bit in history. We purchased the land next door using ARPA funds for $400,000 in 2023. With that came a whole bunch of tier 1 and tier 2 environmental studies valued at about $70,000. And our first shot was to try to put a public safety building next door. And I gotta say, once again, it wasn't this exact board of trustees, but the board of trustees, many times we had this discussion. They thought it was important to simply see what the voters said. And the voters spoke loud and clear, 70% against. As a result, we had to make modifications to our plans. And the most often heard thing during that time period was, why don't we move the electric department next door? So we created an internal team made up of several people here. We'll talk about that when the PowerPoint's up in terms of the process. And we went ahead and we looked at the feasibility of putting a electric department next door that includes all the folks that work out back, all of the equipment, as well as the administrative folks that are on the right as you walk in the room. So essentially, from where you walk in during normal meetings or through the front, with the exception of the police department, everybody on the other side of this wall and the majority of equipment on this side of this wall would all move next door, freeing up a tremendous amount of space for the police department and for public works. So again, hopefully that will come up soon. If it doesn't, we'll go to poster board, we'll go old school and go to poster board. So it didn't just happen overnight. Various iterations of looking at what the project would entail occurred with the subject matter experts, which is not me, it's the crew right over here, working with Weeman Lamphere, because they were the architect of record for the original site. What remained the same essentially was the footprint, not the square footage, but the footprint, to include all of the stuff that we went through to get approval through zoning for that location. So that all remained. The stuff in the ground, that didn't change. We are enrolled in the state's BRELA program. So for brownfield mitigation, we're enrolled with the state of Vermont. Once we get a SMAC designation, is what it's called, essentially a clean bill of health from the state, we are indemnified and protected for all time, no matter what they find in the future, 20 years, 50 years. It's essentially the state signing off to say you did due diligence and you have a clean site. So we're in that process right now. Fast forward, this team, many firms in Vermont bid to become our construction manager. And that really is the theme today. You get a construction manager that comes in very early in the process. They add their expertise along with the architects, and they give you the most effective and efficient way to process and move forward with a project. So out of a number of firms, ultimately Connor Contracting out of St. Albans here in Franklin County were selected, continued to refine the scope, working with our internal team to include Village President Winchester, Trustee Kelleher, Swanton Electric, and that entire team, to refine it down to the point where we thought it was ready to go to bond in March. And at the end of the day, we lost by 6 votes. Now not speaking for the trustees, but I tell you internally, we thought that there was a significant amount of misinformation out there, a belief that it was an impact on taxes, and it's truly fees. There's still remaining confusion. You have to be a village resident by law because we own the enterprise to be able to go and vote. You must be a village resident. Despite the fact that this rate and the impact on rates will be evenly spread amongst all 3,800 ratepayers. So we might have to get another.
I don't even have your email. You just, it's not in your email.
You sent that to me today, right?
Yeah.
Would it be helpful if I sent it back to you, or?
No, I mean, I have it on my phone, but I don't have my computer in here, but we can try that too. So I'll walk through, turn it over to the trustees for questions, but I'll give a broad-based walkthrough. So here's what we're curious about, and we're gonna get our feedback from the polls, but here's what didn't add up last time. Massive amount of support in this room for all the folks that came in to vote, from police to public works to the electric department, for everything with the exception of that building. And we're talking for a cost of 34 cents a day. That's what it's gonna cost for 600 kilowatt hours, or up to 54 cents a day if you use 1,000 kilowatt a month. So very small impact to take care of the 50-year needs for Swanton Village Electric, and at the same time alleviate all the space needs for the police and for public works. So that's kind of where we're at. We probably we did not send out mailers last time. I hope everybody here in the village that's a village resident, and I hope you got these. They went to your house, so hopefully they arrived. And that's a walkthrough without doing the PowerPoint. So the difference though, and I'm going to do this off the top of my head, but it's on your form. So we went back to the drawing board and we did several different scenarios back and forth, again, the committee consisting essentially of mainly the people that you see up here at the end of the day, talking about what could we do to alleviate some additional financial impact and make certain cuts. So those cuts, and you see a lot of school boards going back for round 2. We get one shot at this. By law, this is considered a new vote. If it was a revote, we give it back to you without 1 penny change. If you change the amount it's a revote, we are allowed to do that, unlike the school boards, 1 time in 1 calendar year. So this is our only shot in this calendar year to do this. So you see some, and I'm not picking on anybody, but you see $60 million budgets shave off 100,000, go back to the voters, because the schools can keep doing it and keep doing it. We don't have that luxury. We can do this once. So the trustees took a hard look at this, and we reduced by 10.25%, $852,886. That's significant. So now the bond ask is $7,470,815, and the impact, like I said, is 34 cents a day on all 3,800 ratepayers if your bill is 600 kilowatt hours. 54 cents if your bill is 1,000 kilowatt hours. So we do think that we're not sure what we're missing with the support for the individual departments, and then a very low cost of what would support them for 50 years for space needs and for a brand new building. So how are we doing on that?
It's trying to load.
Okay.
You would send it to my email address, not Diane's. That's where I didn't have it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's in Diane's email too. I'll turn it over to the trustees, but then if we don't get it up here, I'll go get my laptop and we'll just hook directly to the TV so they can see the PowerPoint. We can go through the cost differentiation. So quickly, some of the costs that we have reduced are the brownfields remediation. So we believe still, despite uncertain fiscal times, that 100% of anything related to petroleum over there, and there's an underground storage tank that they didn't deem properly cleaned up. It was sealed in place, but not okay, so they're gonna make us take it out of the ground. That's 100% reimbursed. Anything that is not, but it is brownfield related, because we're in this designation, this BRELA program, is 75% funded at a minimum, possibly up to 100,000. So we took that off the bond cost. Other things like generator, significant things are a change in siding. We'll let Connor Contracting talk about what that means. I think that was about $104,000 reduction. HVAC differences. Essentially, in a nutshell, we're really limiting the zones and the ability to control heat or ventilation cooling in various parts of the building. It's going to be a kind of all or nothing. So that was an approximate $200,000 savings. Little things like moving the generator closer, not putting asphalt where their poles are stored and just put hard packed concrete. All of those things are what add up to that final number. So standalone, they're not significant, although I would call $200,000 and $100,000 reduction significant. It's many, many things, some smaller than larger, that added up to that point.
Agreed.
So I'll turn it over. I'm gonna, just in case, I'm
Yep.
gonna go get my laptop to fire it up just in case we need it.
It's not loading.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Yeah, so you don't have the go-ahead at this point from the state of Vermont to even build there at this point? You haven't got the green light, is that what I heard? Maybe I misunderstood.
We are waiting for the brownfield study, well, not study, I guess, the,
Samples,
huh?
the sample.
The samples to come back so they can bless it and we can move ahead.
What if they don't bless it?
It's possible we could continue to wait.
Okay.
I think I heard the tail end of that question. We are at the state level for final approval from the engineering study for them to evaluate that. So in all likelihood, we are, I won't say assured, we are told that that designation would occur in time for us to break ground next door. Here's also what speeds it along. Once we get, if we have a successful bond vote, we then take the layout of this building and we're able to actually share that definitively with the state of Vermont to say, this is exactly where the building will be sited. And much like other projects, then the remediation might be easier because they may not, it's just a pad. They may not make you do as much remediation if certain things are under the ground there. So we're fairly confident that, let's put it this way. The engineer of record, KAS, and the state of Vermont seem to suggest that even though the cost is significant, these are minor things to clean up.
Where's that money coming from?
Brownfields, so state of Vermont and Northwest Regional Planning Commission.
I thought it said on the brochure it was gonna be reallocated somehow, the brownfields.
The brownfields at one point was included in the bond amount
Right.
previously. We took it out because we're being reassured, even though there's a lot of federal issues right now with people taking money back. NRPC has said that the money is in state coffers already. And if you're in the queue, like we are for this project, and we're already enrolled in the umbrella program to mitigate what's going on next door, we should be assured of getting the money. Now, there's no guarantee of anything, but that's pretty solid when they tell you you're not dependent on Washington, it's not federal funding, it's been received by the state of Vermont. It's not only that, it's been dedicated to regional planning in our area, and regional planning tells us you're gonna get the money.
But where are we getting the money from?
The federal government. That's ultimately
That
where brownfields,
300,000?
300 and, it could be up to $350,000.
Which
That
is why we,
property is in the town, correct?
It is.
that in the works of being switched over?
Yeah, we just, this legislative session, we filed paperwork with our local representatives who created a bill, H364, for annexation of the property over to the village. We testified, we being Brian Savage and myself, on behalf of the town and the village, about a week ago. It passed out of House Ways and Means and House Gov Ops unopposed, and it went through they don't even know this yet, so it's an update.
Thank you.
It passed through the House and is now in the Senate, and it'll fly through there. So it will become village property. And while that didn't matter, it just made sense to do the annexation. The Board of Trustees thought that makes perfect sense for a contiguous property here for what we're trying to do. You get anywhere now?
I thought I had it, trying to make the screen larger and.
any other thoughts or comments?
How long is the rate hike gonna go for? Is it forever?
The bond amount?
Yeah. Well, what we're gonna pay? 34 to 57 cents per 600.
Yeah, so once, and this is another misnomer, and I'll have Lynn talk about the bond itself, but we can't in advance set an electric fee. We're a municipal power company, part of EPSA. So Vermont Public Power Supply Authority. There's a multitude of muni power companies. We go through them. They essentially help us build a rate case. Largely upon your debt ratio, your assets, all of those things, they send that to the Public Utility Commission. We provide testimony, and the Public Utility Commission says, yes, based on all of this, your rates are gonna go up. So our best guess scenario, our worst case scenario, is our rates would increase exactly what we said in here. It could be lower, sometimes they don't give you the entire amount. In all likelihood, the rates for the building, that will stay steady over time. Our bond is for 30 years. Your rates are not gonna come down. Your rates are gonna
Yeah,
go
we'll
up.
take what they never pay down.
So, and favorably, and look, we've talked about this internally. We're not trying to minimize the financial impact on people, but we have the lowest 1/2 of 1 percentile electric rates in the state of Vermont. And
For
after we're
walls.
done, we will have the lowest 1/2 of 1 percentile of electric rates in the state of Vermont. We're trying to build this and provide for the needs for the next 50 years. The two that are lower than us right now are Ludlow and Orleans, thank you. They are both right now, absent any improvements, in for a double-digit increase themselves. We're soon to be number one lowest. And even despite all of this, I believe we're at some point in the next 3 years going to remain the lowest in the state of Vermont.
That's a good thing. I'm sorry, you had a question?
No, I just said we're the fourth lowest, because that's what the budget book said. We're
Yeah.
on the fourth, and then there's 3 above us.
I think there's now 2 above us,
Okay.
and soon to be none above us. Unless we do this, and then we'll be in that, and even those top lowest 4, again, the big 3, right, Green Mountain Power, Vermont Electric Co-op, Washington Electric, they represent 97% of electric customers in the state of Vermont, and they are all significantly higher. And we have those charts in the power.
They're the top 3 in the state.
Do you
If I
want,
may, I have it in front of me, can I add some numbers?
you can,
Just
thank
to be
you.
more specific. We'll do it, there's 200 kilowatt, 600 kilowatt, and 1,000 kilowatt, which is usually industrial, right, or something like that, 1,000, no. But anyway, 600 kilowatts, Swanton is third, set at $79.65. First place is Ludlow, $73.88. Orleans is $77.10. Green Mountain Power is $137.66. Vermont Electric Co-op, $147.60. Washington Electric Cooperative, $163.38. So that's the lowest 3 and the highest 3, and that's a huge difference between that.
Yes. Thank you, Siobhan, for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we connecting? Who's pooping over there?
I lost internet.
If you look on
So
so,
if I just plug in, my PowerPoint's right here.
Well, I just lost the internet,
So can I, but I'll steal your cord. We're gonna have to apologize to whoever's online, but.
Trying to make a connection.
Lost connection altogether.
does anybody happen to know,
Why
how
our
many of the
technology so
different
tough?
electric, that are on the list generate their own power in a hydroelectric like we do?
None.
If any, there are some very small.
Enosburg has a small.
There, yeah.
So Enosburg does,
Morrisville.
Linden, Morrisville, Burlington Electric, Green Mountain Power, Washington Electric. Vermont Electric Co-op doesn't have hydro, but they have other renewable.
But Morrisville and Enosburg's are not.
Nobody's
Similar
as
in
large as us.
Right.
Enosburg's is just under a megawatt. Morrisville is maybe 2 or 4.
We are larger hydro production, just under 10 megawatts than all of the other municipal power companies that belong to VEPSA combined.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Yeah. So we are larger, approximately 10 megawatts, than all of the other muni power companies combined.
Okay, all the
So-
other municipalities that own power companies.
We're not talking GMP,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
that
Not the
group.
big
That's-
corporate ones.
That's big, yes.
Yeah, generating your own
Yeah.
power.
So
You
we're
said
up,
that
you
if
want,
the state doesn't allow you to raise it up, the, price of electric, raise it up, how is that gonna impact things? It just means it's gonna go longer?
no, so the way the Public Utility Commission works is they will determine that you have enough to survive. They don't like cash on your books, they won't give you any money. So I do get the perception, it would make common sense, right, would be met if you could allow yourself to raise the rates for a couple of years, then build a building. They don't like to do that. You cannot raise the rates, so it has to go through them, and they are heavy, and Lynn's got far more experience in this field than I do, but they are heavy on debt ratio. They want you and encourage you to have debt.
So they have a philosophy that current ratepayers should not be paying for what the future ratepayers will benefit. So, like, take a bucket truck, for example. Current ratepayers are using it now. What they don't want is for us to be putting money aside to pay cash for that bucket truck, because that's what current ratepayers are paying, but may not have the benefit of it 5 years down the road. So they want, in theory, they want you to take out debt for everything, which makes no sense because it costs more money, right? Because you're paying interest. But that's their philosophy. They don't want you to have money in the bank. They give you basically like 30 days. The problem is, you know, when we send a bill out, that's 30 days worth of power. We give you 30 days to pay it, and then the people that don't pay it on time and get a disconnect notice, they get another 15 days. So, you know, you're behind the 8 ball constantly, but they don't want you to have that cash. they want you to be constantly struggling is what it, in theory, sounds like. And one of the reasons that we haven't been able to have a rate case is I have our consultants at BEPSA run those numbers. And, you know, I'll get back the answer of, really, you know, you don't need a rate case, you probably should have reduced the rates. And it's like, you can't do that because then you can't ever play catch up. Our hydro plant is the biggest reason I think that, you know, we haven't had to have a rate increase. It's been producing well for a number of years. So that's probably the key to why we're so low. And we've got a great system. These guys have built the system. And even the linemen that were before Dwayne and Darren, like we've been working on this system heavy on tree trimming. These guys go out and help other utilities on, you know, mutual aid all the time. And it's, you know, you get a snowstorm and all the trees are coming down. Not every utility, they may spend as much as we do, their service territory is bigger. They aren't trimming as hard as we are, and it pays off. And we've got a very reliable system and a lot of our fellow utilities. And the big guys, these guys go to Vermont Electric Co-op and Green Mountain Power. So it's not like all the little munis. I mean, they're going and helping the big guys too. You know, so, you know, we're fortunate where we're at, and we're fortunate we haven't had to raise the rates. But
Almost 10 years now.
yeah, it was
Almost 10
2016.
years that we have not raised rates.
And, you know, and I've been in, we had to file a 108 petition for this project. With, the state has to bless us. The PUC is gonna bless this project. And, so I've been in conversations with them. And, you know, they know, you know, this is gonna, if the bond vote passes, we're gonna be filing for a rate case. And, you know, we can say what we want as far as what we think the impact's gonna be. They're gonna look at it and they may say, you're only gonna get half of that, you know, because they've got their own scrutiny that they do.
And that's what I mean, what happens if they do say that you're only gonna get half?
Then
what happens?
they're assuring us that we have enough to pay the bills. That's,
And nothing says that, I mean, we go in this, Vermont Electric Co-op goes in every year, Green Mountain Power. A lot
Most
of the
do,
munis
actually.
are starting to go in every year. So it just would mean that, you know, next year we'd be back to look at, okay, how much more do we need? Or do we need anything? You know, so,
we can't overstate the importance of our hydro. So right now,
Right.
we're in walleye season, so we're in what's called run of river, which means we can't peak. We can't use the system and the ponding to peak and have higher production at peak use times. You know, usually afternoon, early evening, that kind of stuff. So, despite that, Mother Nature's been good. We have spilled every day, and we are maximizing power. All that means is we are covering all 3,800 of our customers, and anything left over any time of day, to include those real critical peak times, gets sold back to the system. For this month and next month, we won't pay for anything we do. We will get a giant check from BEPSA. Now, in a drought, it's not so good to be a hydro operation. So it goes like this, but we are blessed, and we have been blessed since I've been here, to just, even in July, those July storms, I know they're not good for everybody. They are good for hydro production. And in peak times, when it's sizzling out there and it's peak demands and we're covering our load and we're not having to pay this much up here on the open market for power, it's just a massive difference. If you're all okay and the board's okay, I'll just walk through. I know I covered a lot of ground, but I can walk through the PowerPoint. We can hit the highlights and make sure we turn it over to the experts in the room.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
That's right.
Okay. So that's kind of an overhead view of the design itself. Again, just an illustration. And here's the team we talked about. So again, we partnered with Weeman Lampier based in large part upon our positive interaction with them last time, and the fact that didn't have to recreate anything in terms of what was in the ground, or they really knew a lot of the inner workings. It's a good time. We'll start with Darren to have our team kind of introduce themselves, the four of you. So go ahead, Darren.
I'm Darren Poole, part of the wine crew. Been here 30 years.
He's being modest. Dwayne is retiring, and Darren just got promoted to the top job. So he's there after just a brief 28 years.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Dwayne.
Dwayne Kuchar, supervisor of the electric department. I have been here 28 years. My name is Sean Connor. I'm a project manager of Connor Contracting.
I'm Mike Connor. I'm one of 4 owners of Connor Contracting. I live in St. Albans. And our business is 35 years old. In the last 4 years, we've built, this will be our 4th municipal DPW building. We previously built one for St. Albans town of Georgia, and the town of Milton. We just recently completed this past winter. So we're thrilled to be involved and happy to assist the town in any way we can.
Thank you. And like I said before, representing the Board of Trustees, so you don't have a quorum, was our village president, David Winchester, and village trustee, Susie Keller. Project site, it's right next door, so what's highlighted in red is 124 First Street, soon to be village property, but currently a town property. So again, the desire for us to purchase this was you're not going to create another contiguous property. And while it didn't work out for the last developer that bought it, in fact, he basically sold it for less than market value, and he sold it candidly for less than what he paid for it. So, but for us, you can't replicate this contiguous property for us. It's very valuable regardless of what happens. So here's kind of the lay of the land. It's hard to see. We'll have the poster boards up for a closer look. But it's sited, it's long and essentially narrow, not very narrow, but for a lot of reasons. A lot of that's variances and required setbacks. So in order to get through the zoning process, based on the last design, we knew this is essentially what it had to look like. Some of the differences are, though, unlike the last proposal, this one is the electric department. I'll get this on camera for Fire Chief Dan. The electric department can back up their vehicles, so they don't need drive-through bays. So that's one of the differences. So, Dwayne, I'm going to turn it over to you now. I'll click forward, but if you want to talk about the square footage stuff and the requirements.
Yeah, we basically, with the garage area, we've set that up so that all of our equipment that we currently have inside and outside right now will all be inside. The stuff that should be inside. So that's what we've set that up. So you can see if you're up closer and you look at the boards, you can see exactly what pieces of equipment that we have that are gonna be inside. The back part is where materials will be that currently are inside. Any of you that have done the tour have seen up top. So that's the exact spacing that we need for all that. And we feel for the next 50 years it will cover us.
It's important to note that everything that you see highlighted, I know you can't see the descriptions, depictions, but Dwayne's right, we got the poster boards. This is all equipment we currently have. And it's full. So yep. It's gonna fit in there. On the left side, you wanna I can forward it, hold on. There we go, that's a little better, that's the front side, so go ahead, Lee.
So this is the administrative office section. So when you walk in the entryway, to the right is gonna be a boardroom. And to the left is gonna be it's gonna have a multi-purpose, so it's gonna be a training room. The line crew goes through extensive training on a regular basis to stay up to date with code and procedures. It's also gonna double as a room for the community to use, voting day, that sort of stuff. And then you'll go through, you access those from the lobby area. There's gonna be a secured door that'll take you into the office area. As of right now, like anybody can just walk down the hall and, interrupt anybody that might be in the middle of a meeting. So this way there'll be a secured door. The open office area will be where Diane and Lori and Liz will be. And then there's a couple of bathrooms. There's a printing and supply room, which is where we would process, print the bills and stuff. If you go down the hall even farther, is a set of offices. So there's, one of the offices is actually vacant right now. That's gonna be more like a small conference room. We currently don't have a private place that we can take a customer if they need to speak privately about their bill. We can't even take them in this room because we have an office in the corner. So this would give us a private space that we could have a customer go sit with one of our staff members to go over their bill. Or if somebody in the front office area needs to do an online class, And the rest of the offices would be, one for our grants administrator, Heidi, one for our HR. That's another important thing to point out, is right now, the woman that does payroll and HR and accounts payable is out in the front office. So if an employee has a workman's comp issue, has a question about their benefits, a private question that not everybody should hear, she has no place to privately talk to them without kicking somebody else out of an office. So she would get her own office, and Bill and myself would have an office. And then the middle section is more like, we currently have a walk-in safe. This would be a walk-in storage area also. And then by code, we have to have a lactation room, a couple of bathrooms. There's a locker room for the guys with a toilet and a shower. Need to have a shower in case they get in contact with chemicals or anything. Locker room where they can store their outerwear. And then mechanical sprinkler room and electrical room on the garage end. And then at the top, and then we've got a kitchen area also, which right now we don't have a lunchroom area that's big enough for everybody. The line crew actually eats on the dock at the back of the trucks. And Public Works eats somewhere between the kitchen and one of the offices. And then at the top, there's another row of offices, and that's where Dwayne's guys. So there would be an office for the meter reader, and then there's the supervisor and lead lineman's office, and then an office for the linemen. We're doing more and more stuff paperless. They need a place where they can sit down and enter stuff on the computer or on their iPads.
And there was an office for Dan too.
Yeah, for hydroelectric.
Oh, yes.
And this, I still think it's really hard to see. It might be on poster board, Dwayne, but if you want to cover anything else here.
I think I pretty much covered it, unless anybody had any questions about it. We do have the poster board, and anybody can see it a little bit closer if they're interested in exactly what was in there for equipment.
Okay. Any questions reference that before we move on?
This is the same design as proposed before, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Well, with the exceptions of the stuff we're going to talk about that we
As far
The
as.
same design.
As far as.
design, yes,
Yeah,
correct.
designs.
Yep.
Except we were kind of trying to do that here, the last. Yeah, you mean the first
First.
one, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you do like the safety facility thing
Yeah.
last
Yep.
year?
Yeah,
Last
no,
year?
yeah,
This
this
last-
is
the
different.
last meeting they
The
had.
last,
Oh, okay.
The last
Correct,
one.
that's right.
We've seen that, or any questions about that?
And we can leave that stuff out. Again, a bird's eye view, the same one as before. And then this is the view that you'd see looking at the front of the building. So this is, this would be the front of it facing First Street.
Yep.
This is the side facing Elm Street. And again, that's the connecting road, Elm Street, between our current facility and the new proposed facility.
So are they gonna change that intersection there?
No, we still want to have ingress only, so just,
Okay.
and then on the other side, the only again, the only egress that we will have on the Robin Hood is for the tractor trailers to exit when they deliver poles, transformers, and things like that. Other than that, everything will be from Elm Street and out and around.
Are they gonna have a sign saying Swanton Electric?
Yes, there'll be signage.
Odd.
Yep, some, we haven't gotten that far yet.
You haven't got the building yet.
Correct. That's right.
Building first, sign second.
Yes. So again, the original request, March 2025, was 8.3 million and change. We reduced that request by $852,886. So the new total project cost is $7.4,070,815, a reduction of 10.25%. I will turn it over to Team Connor to talk about this. This is just a bulleted list, very generic, of what we reduced. But they can talk in particular, if you would, about the siding finishes and what the impact and savings there are, and the HVAC.
Sure, thank you. First, I'll start with trying to explain what our role is as a construction manager. Town sought interest from CMs for assisting the project team with defining the project cost before it's fully designed. So the advantage to a CM process is you get involved early with the design team. We're one of several professionals that are involved with the early design of the building. There's the contractor, there's the architect, there's the civil engineer, there's the structural engineer, and then there's MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design. And all those consultants are providing their insight and input early on in the project at the conceptual stages. That's where we're at right now, the conceptual stage. We created a conceptual estimate, which is based on all the specs they're bringing towards us, as well as our experience on a unit cost basis and what we've been paying recently for the same elements. So we're at the conceptual estimate stage. We've done the conceptual estimate. The next step is as soon as the public gives the nod to move ahead, there'll be a design development phase where the design will be continued and more refined, and all the elements within the building will be fully specified. That's a design development estimate. That's our second estimate. And then the third estimate we create is a post-bid estimate after the job's gone out to bid to selected subcontractors. Then we're confirming our numbers before we actually agree on a final fixed price contract to construct the building. We don't have a job until we bring you a palatable number, a palatable budget. So we have every incentive to make it happen, and there's no incentive to blow up the numbers anywhere along the way. One of the reasons you'll see a 10% contingency, CM estimating contingency, is because we're at the conceptual stages. Until we get further along, until the job's fully specified, until we get a chance to determine what the specific materials are and what their availability and pricing is 2, 3, 6 months from now, however the schedule works out, that's when we can, feel confident that establish what they call a guaranteed maximum price. So we're in the early stages of the CM process. And the advantage to the CM process is you're working with as a team cooperatively to try to steer a project along in a manner that's consistent with what the townspeople want, what the committee has asked us to do, so that it's affordable in the end. The difference between that and a fixed price general contract job is you would then hire a design team, which is generally coordinated by the lead architect. They would go out and round up, that's those same disciplines I was speaking of, get proposals for them, which would normally be in about a 6% range of the project cost. So if it's a $8 million job, you can spend $480,000 to fully specify a job, put it out to bid on the street in hopes that it falls in the price, in the range you need it to. So that's the risk you take with a fully designed project. And when you get to that point, you just paid for a very expensive formal design. You've got a project that's over budget, and now you've got a hack and slash, and you have, I don't want to say meaningless documents, but you don't have documents that are relevant anymore to what you're going to build. So it's difficult and more expensive for us as a CM to write tight subcontracts and confirm scope with subs with a set of documents that are no longer accurate. So that's why everybody is kind of switching towards the CM process in these kind of projects, because it's more transparent. You're sharing all your numbers with the committee and everyone involved at all stages, and it's just more transparent. And so that's what we have in front of us to do, which is months worth of work as the design team is finishing their roles. So we were surprised when we heard it didn't pass by just a few votes. So we met and had a discussion, what can we live without? And my goal was find $1 million in savings, and we almost accomplished that. We did, but when you factor in the markup associated with it, we're just about there. So some of the things we talked about was providing an alternate siding material in the office. The initial design included brick veneer with precast sills and headers, fairly high-end finish for the office component. Again, to remind everybody, the building is separated into two halves. The office component is wood framed, is about 8,600 square feet, is a wood framed structure. We found it was much less expensive to build that component out of wood framing. The garage component is around 9,700 square feet. Total combined square footage is 18,340, but the garage is a little bigger, 9,700 square feet or so, and that's a custom structural steel building that slopes to the rear, single slope roof, shed roof, very simple design. The water sheds off the back into a detention pond for stormwater management. The wood frame building is a flat roof with internal drains that channel the roof water to under slab drainage that go to the same detention pond in the back of the building, or the east side of the building, if you would look at the site plan.
So there's enough land for the detention, the pond?
Yes,
It's not
it's a
very
long,
big.
narrow, maybe you could bring up the site plan, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get there.
There you go. It's that turquoise blue strip you see on the east side of the building.
Wow. Yeah.
When looking at this picture, the top of the screen, which way is this oriented?
The top is Robin Hood Drive,
Yep.
the bottom is the first and short.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, left side first. Yep.
That would be, yeah, and that's First Street, thank you.
Yeah, first is and then short, so we could rent a secure outdoor storage, that's short.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So when looking at these all value engineering ideas, we look at changing the siding as one idea. And it involves, because we had brick veneer, we needed a fatter foundation to rest the brick on. So we went from an 8 to a 12-inch foundation. So if we go back to metal corrugated siding or some sort of preformed metal siding, we can change from 2x8 framing to 2x6 framing, so the exterior walls get lighter and less expensive. We no longer have to anchor brick veneer to it.
Coming off that.
We delete the bricks, precast sills and headers, and we lessen the foundation cost. So we're predicting it's about 104,000 savings to do that. Some of the items are easy and low-hanging fruit. Reduce the landscaping allowance by 10 grand. Reduce the gravel amount of stone being used at the gravel storage area. This would be the south end of the building. We had initially $50,000 allocated towards security and access control. We decided we could probably cut that in half and not have much of a concern there. No, sorry, we reduced it by 12,500. The generator we talked about might be available by grant or other sources of money, so we took that out of the scope of the project. That was 75 grand. Minor changes in the patio area, reduction in scope there. Relocate some of the EV chargers closer to the building to reduce the conduit length and reduce excavation and backfill. And the mechanical system, try to simplify the mechanical system. The initial system was a outside chiller with a heat pump system. The heat pumps have generally 4 pipes that serve them: hot water supply and return and cold water supply and return to 15. There were 15 heat pumps in the office area before. They simplified it to go to a fan coil system, which is a 2-pipe system. So now you have refrigeration is the cooling media from the outside mounting condensing unit to a controller that's in the mechanical room or receptor location. So your cooling media is circulating from the outside mounted equipment into the mechanical room, and then from there you have a supply and return pipe that circulates water to the fan coils that are heated or cooled, whatever the need might be for heating or cooling. And they reduced the number of heat pumps from 15 down to 9 fan coils, combined some offices to to sacrifice a little individual control in every office and put fan coils on common walls that have similar exposure. So if you have an easterly exposure or, or on the north side, you should be able to group a few offices together and have them on the same zone and not have to spend quite as much money on controls and some of the expensive, related expenses. So that we thought is gonna result in $210,000 in savings. So even after, roughly 500,000 in savings, we reduced our contingency as well and credited back the appropriate CM fee and P.E.G bond costs as well. So we were in the $500,000 range, and then on top of that was your
Brownfields.
brownfields. So again, these are preliminary numbers with our best estimate at this point, what we think we can accomplish. The initial ask had a 610% estimating contingency. We hope we're not going to need much of that. It's a challenging times right now, as we all know, reading the paper and watching the news every day. It's tough to predict where material pricing is going to be, but we have a healthy contingency, and we're confident that this job is big enough. It's going to be sought out by many contractors and should be a very competitive bid arrangement. So that's where we find out the real numbers on the third and final estimate, when the construction documents are substantially complete, issued for construction, fully designed. Then we can format bid packages and put every section of work out to bid and summarize the project cost in the end for the owner. So
Then why are we voting on this now when we don't even have a true number?
This is the worst case scenario as far as cost. That's,
you have to go the other route if you want.
we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You have to.
You know.
So you're saying 7,470,000, whatever, that could be like 25-30% more or less?
No.
No, it wouldn't be more.
Keep in
It would
mind
be,
It would stay the same, there would be nothing.
That's-
It'd be that or less.
it'd be that or less. We're
That's it.
proposing worst case scenario.
The vote allows you to bond up to that amount. In a less uncertain time, I think we'd have our construction manager saying repeatedly on the last 3 Franklin County projects that are very similar to this,
Yeah.
the amount from here only went down.
Yeah.
Because it gets tightened up through competitive bid process.
Yeah, but the last several constructions, whether it be St. Albans or Milton or whatever, I mean, we're talking tariffs, we're talking all the
Yes.
construction costs,
Yeah.
lumber.
Mhm.
I mean, you said the first part of that thing was gonna be
Yeah.
lumber. I mean,
Right.
price of lumber is expensive right now.
Yeah.
So, and it might go up. I'm not really sure of where.
Right.
Yeah.
The other projects I referenced, we started with a contingency in the 5% range, and once we get to the GMP stages on our final estimate post-bid, then we have hard numbers from subs, we tighten the contingency down to 3%. Sometimes we'll go even less than that if we feel we have a really good team of subs and we're confident with every aspect of the job. But as hard as we try to do a perfect job, no one is perfect. I've never seen a perfect set of drawings. It's very difficult to not have zero change orders, but we try to spend the time up front to do our homework, to represent the owner and minimize changes. We don't like them. They create a headache. They slow us down. It costs people money, and we like to think that if we all do our homework in advance, the owner's gonna know exactly what they're gonna want. They're not gonna bog us down with interruptions, saying, I don't like the way this looks. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but you encounter that a lot less if you spend your time doing the homework up front. Then everyone's more comfortable with the process moving forward. You've talked about it for months, and nothing's new. Sometimes you run into unsuitable soils, unforeseen conditions, excessive groundwater that require action below grade on your foundation that you have to do to make sure you have solid foundation under your building. If you had a high water table, which is, there is some water table here, this swamp grass right next to the interstate on-ramp, it's not uncommon to have to put a foot or two of stone under the footings. We've got a foot budgeted right now, but, you know, so we try to predict some of these things that may happen based on the local soil conditions, but if you had poor soil bearing, you might have to build a wider foundation that involves more concrete, more rebar, more labor. Again, those things we're gonna know about during the design process. We're gonna identify them during the bid process. The foundation, if it needed to be designed larger and more heavy, will be designed that way. So everybody's looking at it the same, everybody's bidding it. We try to spend the time to do the homework so that we minimize significant changes that can happen. And if we are not comfortable with something, we'll carry a contingency specifically for that item. That, again, the contingency is the owner's money. It's not our money. And
Can you explain the contingency? I know you mentioned it a couple times. What does that exactly mean?
it's if a contingent item arises that was unplanned, or if somebody had omitted some scope that wasn't clear. Occasionally you get a sub that might present something. The drawing said this, I disagree with its intent. I read it to mean this, and then you have a discussion with the design team and the owner, and yeah, some of them you would disagree with, and some you concede with.
Most of the time it's something like, we get told pre-bid that there's no ledge, and you went out there the first day to go put a shovel in the ground, you hit ledge immediately. Well, the site guy didn't plan to have to be trying to bust through ledge to dig for the footings. So you might say, yes, we had a geotech report. That geotech report didn't tell us that there was ledge there. We need to use a little bit of this contingency because they're now having to spend more time busting this apart in order to get the footings in.
We're calling it an estimating contingency at this point because the estimate is so preliminary, because the job is not fully designed yet.
It's basically a sum set
it's-
aside or estimated
so it's
for a
now an
backup
estimate.
plan.
So it's now an estimated
Yeah,
contingency.
okay.
Yes.
It's now
And this
an
is where we
estimate.
bring in the, you can't go higher than what you bond for, and we don't expect it to be
Well,
that
it's
much.
just trying to be responsible, and we're telling everybody what the numbers are, so
Thank you.
I don't hide anything. It's just, it's initially it's an estimating contingency. When the guaranteed maximum price document is issued and we've been given the authorization to proceed, it's then called the construction manager's contingency. But it's the owner's money, and we don't spend it without the owner's approval.
Which is why we're showing worst case scenario of
I just wanted to clarify that because
7.47.
it's a big number. It's
So-
10% of the construction
Just
cost.
for the sake of argument, say you get 7.4 or 7.5. And at the final thing, because the price is whatever, it's 7.7, 7.8. What do we do?
You
then?
can't. We're bonded for 7.5.
So then what do we do?
You take it out of your general operating budget if you have it, where you look for alternatives. But we are only allowed to bond up to this amount. But say the project's over $100,000. Are you asking if that would stop the project and there's no other way to continue?
Well, I
It
just
means-
want to know if we're all gonna be informed that it's gonna go over budget, or
Oh, yeah,
if
there,
it's gonna come out of a different fund, and, because basically we take it out of a different fund, it's over budget, but.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
correct.
Right.
But if it was over budget by $100,000, I'm pretty confident that we would find a way internally to get that done, if it's that close. We don't anticipate that. It's why we went the construction manager route. It's why we hired professionals to do the job, and they've had great success in that area. But yeah, if it's, there's also the possibility, say we get to the point where we're just absolutely blown away when we get estimates because of a massive tariff. Well, you know what? We might have to wait. We don't anticipate that, but if for some reason there's 1,000% tariffs on something, that would ruin some
I'm
things.
just guessing,
Yeah.
you will keep the taxpayers
Yeah.
up to date on what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's our job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're also
The-
gonna-
like you said,
You're
yeah.
also gonna look further cost reduction if you can, if there's other things you can live without.
I was gonna make a comment to say, you used the wood studs as an example. If lumber goes through the roof because Canada gets hit with a massive tax, well, our job during that design process is we're gonna know that that's coming, and it'd be looking at do we need to explore going to a metal frame building? We do that often on CM jobs of
Maybe just the interiors.
the interiors, but sometimes it could be the exterior too. It all depends on what the market's gonna do. We're working toward the target number that the voters approved. So if a material needs to be substituted because the pricing got wacky, then that's what we've been hired to help mitigate for the town.
Generally speaking, the big sections of work are where all the big money is, and when you have budget problems, it's usually, if you have to save money, you gotta look where the big numbers are, because that's always the case. Mechanical, electrical, site work, concrete, those are the four biggest sections of work where you can spend the most money in. Again, we have to carry contingency before we start. It wouldn't be prudent to start otherwise. But once you get out of the ground, you've got your foundation in, your backfill, you're 75% of the way there in terms of other surprises that could come up. The expensive problems that you encounter are normally site work related or soil related that require you to take other measures to make sure the building's not gonna settle.
And if I just may, like, the reason we went with Connor is because they are fiscally responsible, and we've seen that through the bid process, through the other buildings that they've done, and I mean unanimously, we decided to go with them because of their fiscal responsibility. And even in the first couple of meetings, they proved that to us by going, well, you know, maybe you can do without this, and we can change this to this, that'll save you some money. And they've been just on it from the very beginning. So I have a lot of faith in them to make sure that we come in at or under budget.
And then as far as the bond process, years ago, when a municipality would do a bond, and we anticipate going through the bond bank, is if you bonded for 7.5 million, they would do their bond sale in the summer, and then they would send you a check for 7.5 million. They've changed that philosophy now, due to some shady stuff around the state of other communities. So now what happens is just like we do with the water and sewer projects through the state SRF funding, is we have to expend the money, and then I have to requisition it from the bond bank. And then they look at the invoices, you have to send the invoices and everything, cancel checks, they look at it before they will reimburse us for that. So if a project, say the project comes in at only 7 million, that's all we're gonna be able to draw down. So it's not like we can take it all and do what we want with it, like we have to prove what we're spending it for, and we will only get reimbursed for what we have spent. When we did the rubber bag up at the hydro plant, that project came in under budget. So we only drew down part of what they part of what we had bond authorization for. And the rest of it, we ended up cutting, like, they forgave a couple of our payments of principal. They have a way that they can work it so that you only pay back what you borrowed. But yeah, we can't draw down the money ahead of spending it.
Good question, though. Very good.
Other questions before we go to the next slide?
And what is the change to the security and access control?
We had, I think the initial number was 50,000 for security cameras. Access control is a computer system and hardware and software where you have electronic strikes, and the system is passed with key fobs instead of, you still have the building is keyed for secondary reasons in case you ever lost power. But it's so that you can electronically admit whoever you want into the building. If you have a disgruntled employee or someone leaves that you need to delete from the system, it's a simple few keystrokes in the computer. Joe Smith can no longer enter here, he's gone. But it's becoming very common to address building security. And it's almost always handled by the owner towards the end of the job. And not very often are we asked to carry that sub or that trade early on. So we had what we thought was too big of a number, so we reduced it by 12,500. So right now in the budget is 37,500.
We
So-
think we can do it for that.
So there's still plenty of money to do it.
So my curiosity, because the last meeting you mentioned, the community room, I was personally really excited about that one, having a
You'll get
space
it,
for the
you'll
community
get
to
that
come
very
in.
key fob.
And the
Yep.
key fob,
Yep.
being able to
Mhm.
key fob in and out, I
Yep.
just hope that whatever reduction happens, it doesn't change that.
No, it
aspect.
doesn't.
No,
It's
and
not
then,
that, it's not that part of it, but yeah,
That just opens it better to,
Mhm.
you know, community, you know, and
For that kind of a use, you don't have to worry about passing your key around and getting the key back.
And one last on this, how does the relocation of EV chargers lower the price?
You wanna talk to that too?
Let's not do it, let's wire.
They were-
Shorter distance to run.
we had originally had them on the farther side of the parking lot, and so instead they're gonna be up
The
towards
site
the
plan again,
entrance.
what's that?
Bring the site plan up, please.
Closer to
Right
the
there,
electrical.
behind you, the other way, Dwayne, behind you.
Why don't they leave it where it was?
They were over here.
Because it was gonna be
It
too
was gonna
much,
cost a lot
too
more
much
money.
conduit.
Well, everything's there already.
No.
No, no.
No,
Nothing's
there's
there.
nothing
Nothing's
there.
there.
If I may then,
Stuff's not over there anymore?
No,
No.
that's separate, that's not on that site. This,
I know
when
it's
you,
not on
when
that
you
site.
build a new building, you're now required by law to add EV
Yeah.
at that site.
I know.
You must do it.
So my question is,
That's
if
the same
somebody
thing,
uses
like-
it, which is probably a good idea, in
Yeah.
Swanton, because
Yeah.
people coming off the interstate.
Yep.
Do we make money off that?
You know what?
Charging vehicles?
There's supposed to be like a
Supposed to
credit
be
card
neutral.
access
Is
to,
what?
It's supposed to be neutral, cost neutral, where you don't make money on it. That's another thing that right now the Public Utility Commission is working with all VEPSA entities
So basically,
to identify.
you make cost.
Yeah, you don't wanna lose money on it.
Right.
So it's, but it's based upon your rates and you plug and play. Those will be level 2. The ones out here will eventually be replaced with grant funding, same formula. And then we get to level 1 fast chargers going down in Merchants Row that are grant funded, same formula. Somebody comes, plugs and play, swipe, credit card, don't lose any money. Not on the Merchants Row south, 74 Merchants Row, the parking lot. Yeah, not on the front, that would probably not go over.
That would work.
No. Any other questions before we move to the next slide?
Yeah.
Yep.
The outdoor storage, did I hear it went from paving to concrete, or what am I, did I miss or mishear
That's
something?
where the poles are in the,
Yeah.
on that back side. Do you have that over?
You need this, the one I just left again, I'm just gonna keep it up there.
you probably should.
Yeah.
Right
So
here.
that outdoor storage where it's actually, that's the only fenced in area.
Yeah,
That's where our poles will be on the right side where you're able to drive through. We'll be able to want our transformers there, off the trucks,
So this portion's gonna be paved and this portion's gonna be
just gravel.
gravel.
Just gravel. Yeah.
So we save money there.
Yeah. Money savings.
Why can't you just leave the poles where they are?
We are creating more space on this side for Dean's, Public Works crew, for their stuff that they need over here.
Well, and actually where the poles currently are, there's a gate back there.
Right.
So right now, the police department actually has an impounded vehicle in their substation. So there's actually like kind of a nice, there's a gate in that way back that you can't really access because of the poles. Once we move the poles over to 124, we'll be able to use that gate. They're gonna put a fence up in the substation so that it divides where the police department can actually impound the vehicle properly. And then they will have their substation area and the two parties can't commingle into,
They
the
won't
police
be able to
can't go
actually
into
get
the
in our
substation, they
electrical
can't
stuff.
go into the
It'll be the
impound.
back part of our
We
stuff.
don't hold on a trailer, we have
So the
to
police
walk through,
impoundment's gonna be on the
what
new
to the degree that all
No.
the
No,
work
it's
has
still-
stored there.
Well, get after them.
No, well, it's-
Shouldn't say degree, but yeah, but there's stuff that they've got.
Yeah, I've been back,
So.
So some of you noticed that the Public Works is using 124 now, right? Okay. So that comes back over here when they go over there. Here.
especially in winter time, snow covers, the stuff that.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to eliminate the needs that they need over here as well as moving everything over there.
And this slide represents, and it was in the mailer, this is the worst-case scenario if the PUC agrees that this is the maximum amount. If we really utilize 7.47 million on a $600 residential bill, 34 cents a day, on a 1,000 kilowatt residential bill, 54 cents a day. On average for us here, we don't have exact figures, but it is right around the 600 for village residents, really close to that. Some a little above, not many above 1,000 kilowatts, which I was surprised, but it's not
You will
many.
see that more, like our farms and sugar makers are considered under a residential tariff. They're the ones that you're gonna see that are over that 1,000 kilowatt.
Right.
But it's, I mean, they've got a lot of stuff that uses a lot of electricity.
So we don't know how to do this cheaper than this for many parts of the organization. Here's the comparison. And again, if you're taking the 600 kilowatt, that's the column in the middle. We're currently third. Again, Ludlow and Orleans have both filed with a PUC or, yeah, it's active filings. Both double-digit percent increases.
Do you know how much that is? Like, so, right
Well,
now,
it's
they sit at 73.88 for Ludlow, and they're asking for,
10% of that, $7 and, change.
so they're asking.
Or they could be 14%. Again, it depends on what the PUC awards. So the good news for them is it's 10% and they're the lowest, so it's not as much, same as us. I mean, that kind of increase for us is not as significant as, say, if you're sitting down there in Washington Electric's world, double what we are. That's a different place to be, so.
And the utilities that warn us are Green Mountain Power and Dow Electric all on.
Right.
Hi, Murphy.
Murphy's a hit. So that's the comparison. And again, the additional benefits we just talked about, they would inherit the back side of the secure storage area that's fenced in that we would use for an impound area. Walking in, they would utilize that immediately for a really proper temporary evidence storage and for drugs and weapons. And then they also would, without any cost, you saw Chief Sullivan in here tonight. He currently lives literally in a closet. My office will be his office. The officer room will be across the way. They can move out and spread out without us putting any additional money in this building. They need space. They need a message that says the community actually supports what we're trying to do. There's 9 full-time officers and they live in a closet. If we do go on a tour, but even if we don't, where the electric vehicles are parked right now, that first big bay will become the police bay. So they'll at least be able to bring a combative prisoner, which happens from time to time, into that instead of bringing them out into the parking lot and through the door over there. So they would gain quite a bit of space as well. And same for Public Works. They would gain additional garage space. They would gain all of that stuff on the raised concrete mezzanine where electric's gonna move their equipment over. So they would get quite a bit of space. The intent would be one apparatus, one door, instead of coming in and having to back one truck or drive one truck out to get to a snowplow number 2 if that's your truck. So everybody gains on this, again, for relatively 34 cents a day, I think. Again, there's no possible way, if we ever try to do something on the tax base, that we could do it as efficiently and effectively, cost effective as we're trying to do here.
What is the operating cost gonna be if and when the building goes up? Do you figured out maybe what it's gonna cost to operate yearly?
The new building, we're told it'll be more efficient and of a system than what we have here.
But it will
In
still
terms
come
of-
out of the electric department
Correct.
budget and not out of taxpayer
Right.
dollars. So to operate, to clean, to keep
Right.
that one up is going to all come out of ratepayer money, not taxpayer money. This one
No
will
raises for
be
so-
all taxpayer money.
So wait a minute, so if it costs more, then there's a possibility, I know you haven't raised rates in 10 years, but there's a possibility that it costs more to maintain, you know, clean, electricity, because it's a bigger warehouse.
I really don't see that occurring
Yeah.
with the rates.
Yeah.
I mean, just because of the system here, and that is that hydroelectric facility, you know, that keeps those rates down. I mean, you look at however many years, don't just go back to 10 years, go back before that, when was the rate increase before 2016? You know, you're gonna see just a history here of the rates don't often go up. There's a significant reason why they have to go up. You know, we're trying to put in a new building, that's why we're asking for, you know, the rate increase, which has to be approved by the Public Service Board.
So insurance on that building, utilities, heat, all that, it won't come anywhere near a taxpayer.
Correct.
Correct.
That's
It'll all
all,
come just.
that's all based
So
on
I'm
the
gonna watch
electric
your
facility.
budget this year.
Go right
There
ahead.
better not be too much of an increase. Cause then I'll say,
Yeah.
ah,
Well, the nice thing about the new building is it's going to be a fraction of the energy to maintain and everything else.
yeah.
And-
Take this one out.
The
Yeah.
air conditioner out here
Yeah.
sounds pretty bad.
Right.
It does.
Oh,
And-
yeah, when I'm watering flowers.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
Oh, what the heck is that?
And the electric company is growing. We're getting more and more customer base, and the future looks really bright for expansion on a current grid that we have in the Southern Growth District. Highgate for the expansion up there at the airport, all those type of enterprises are all gonna benefit, and the more customers we have, the more the rates will stay. In theory, and it's worked well over all these years.
Yeah, cause that's what had me stumped, it's like, housing is not gonna cost taxpayers money. And I get, there's expenses and
Everything with the electric department is through rates.
yeah,
That is what people do get confused about, you know, a lot. You know, your public works, your police department, that's your taxes.
yeah,
You know, your electric, it's all rates. It's all based on your rates.
okay.
With the new heating system that you're proposing versus the heat pumps, how much of a difference are we gonna pay more? Is that figured in?
What I know is that all the new equipment is providing electric heating, electric cooling primarily. There's gonna be a boiler for backup, for extreme design day type temperatures, in case you need some additional heat. The natural gas boiler will kick in, but my understanding is the majority, first stage of heat is gonna be electric cooling, so it should be an operating expense as part of your budget, I would expect. You shouldn't be seeing a huge natural gas bill.
Are you gonna still run radiant heat in the garages?
That's still in the budget right now.
We figured that in the long run, the payoff financially for the radiant heat would be better than Modine's, right? Isn't that what they're
Yes.
called?
Yes. There's no more lower cost over time, an efficient way to heat a space like that than to put heating in a massive slab.
I have radiant heat.
Yeah, it's very nice. That's right, you do, don't you? Yeah.
That's still alive.
Scares me all the time. If we ever lost power, I'm screwed.
We'll do the best we can to not allow that.
Yeah, it maintains it for a long
Slide.
time. Maintains it for a long time.
But you are circulating water through the floor system, so you've got some pumps and you've got some electrical usage there. You know, that you wouldn't have with Modine, but it's a nicer, more uniform heat. They're quiet, you don't have to listen to those unit heaters rattling and humming all the time. And once you heat that massive concrete up, it's a better constant heat when the doors are opening and closing versus if it's just a basic unit heater type situation. You open the warehouse door to get a truck out, shut the door, then unit heaters are planned to quickly turn on when they sense that demand call for heat, and they blast the space again with heat to temper it again. So it's a constant on-off cycle when doors are opening and closing. With the floor heat, it's less noticeable and it takes a long time to lose temperature of the slab. a lot longer than it does if you've got a few doors open for an hour during the day, half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night. I don't think you notice I don't think that the boiler runs as often as it would.
Well, I left my garage door open before, winter time, maybe.
Wow.
But you don't wanna heat that slab.
I was heating outside.
Yeah.
You got it in your garage too, Dave?
Yeah.
Other questions? Who wants a tour?
I've seen it.
Sounds like nobody. Yeah, you
Anybody
also.
not been on tour before, wanna go on a tour?
I had one question.
Yeah.
If you compare this project to the first one that was passed last year,
Mhm.
what department was moving over to the new building before?
Police and fire.
So police is gonna stay, and fire is gonna remain where it is as well?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've gained how many thousand square feet by vacating this building?
14-ish.
That's what I calculated roughly.
Yeah.
So my only observation through all this is I don't think we've been given enough credit to the value of this building that's gonna remain and the cost associated with replacing that space if you had to build it new.
Right.
It would be,
Yeah.
it would be $300 a square foot.
Right.
Times 14, or another 5 million.
Yep,
Um,
5 to 6.
So obviously we know where the savings came from because the project costs got smaller as a result of reducing the footprint. But we haven't talked much about that aspect of it. For a fraction of the cost, you'll be able to do minor renovations to satisfy the other department's needs to grow for a long time.
It's true.
Right.
I have one last question. You guys were not involved with the public safety facility last year?
No.
For none of that, right?
No.
Okay, that was Wayman Lampier and,
Rearc.
Rearc.
oh, Rearc, okay,
Raymond is still part of the team.
okay.
And Mike's team has worked well with many projects with the same architects. And the facilities that we've seen for Public Works in Milton, in Georgia, and St. Albans are fantastic. And their input to keep the cost down, along with the architects, has been amazing.
If this is the end of your presentation, I have some final thoughts I'd like to share, if I may. Siobhan Cooper, vocal, loud person here in Swanton Village. I'm gonna say that, when I go to vote on that Tuesday, I'm gonna vote yes, and I'd like to say why. I was very much against the $19 million facility for the public safety, et cetera. I think I was a big advocate against it, no offense, sorry, but at that time, I do remember the community speaking up and saying, in Winchester especially, what other solutions have you looked at? And it was pretty much shouted over and over, have you thought about the electric department? And that's now where we are. A couple other things I see as people talking separately. People who don't own land shouldn't have a vote or a say or things like that. I'm a flatlander here since 2008. I've made this community my family and community. And I'm a renter. And I just gotta say, I'm still gonna go vote on Tuesday yes, because last year with that $19 million facility, that would have affected my landlord. It would have raised his taxes, which would have raised my rent overall. So rather than in the future, another change or try at a taxpayer resolution, I'm okay with paying more in electric so that my landlord doesn't have to raise his taxes, raising my rent, and then really pricing me out of here. But another thing I want to say, this project is completely different because it is just the electric rate. I feel bad for electric rate payers that aren't part of the municipality, the village, town especially, because you got that Swanton moniker, but you don't have the same voting power. But for anybody that my vote may help get this, I'm sorry if it affects you negatively, but I find it still a positive because overall we are gaining space, that awesome community room. This is a way for me also as a voter to show my support to the police and the departments that I wasn't able to show on the first vote when I voted no. And it also, once again, rates and not taxes. And like you said, it was mentioned in the future, anything that may come up for renovations here that would be 5 or 6 or 7, whatever years down the road, And I'm sure it would be a cost-effective way and nowhere near $1 million, $8 million, or $19 million fix. But yeah, and I think that looking at the numbers too, with the us sitting at 79.65, us possibly getting what did that say, 82 with that paper? No, the 82 is Northfield, 89. We would then still be fourth. I think it was 89. Fifth is Morrisville at 98.64. And looking at the numbers talking about Ludlow and Orleans increasing, we may still end up being second, third, or possibly even first. So either way, that's not the point of it. The point of that is that we need to continue to support the public works that we have. And if we give them the space, they're more likely to stay and not want to go somewhere where they can have their own private office, because you're Burlington and you have millions of dollars. I'm not saying they do, but you have millions of more dollars in state taxes, et cetera, to support your community. This is one way that we can support the community in growth, and go from there. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And on top of that, savings is as Mike was pointing out, the additional space for the existing building that we don't have to build separately, that would have to be paid by raising property taxes to help all of the other assets that are in our community. So I know my wife and I look at this $8 or $9 that we might have to spend a month on our electric bill. It's gonna spread across, it's gonna help the PD, Public Works, everybody else, electric company. And as an investment in the electric company, you can imagine probably 20 years ago when they talked about spending $20 million expanding electric company. Oh, we can't afford to do that. That's going to be too expensive, right? And look what it has done for us over that time. And that investment has kept us low, saved citizens of Swanton so much money. It's unbelievable. And the fact that they could do this, and on top of that, help the community, just compounds the benefit of owning our own electric company and everything else.
I couldn't imagine paying GMP rates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, in Milton, I got a friend of mine in Milton, she pays $300 and some odd a month, even in the wintertime or the summertime, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's paying almost $5,000 a year in electricity rates.
Not to be not to be the devil's advocate here, but just for instance, my mother-in-law, she on fixed income, tax rate went up last year, her rent went up to $78. Now you're asking, it's not $6 or $8 per month, it's almost $20 a month. Depending upon how much you use.
Correct, that's right.
Me, I'm retired, I watch movies in the time all the time. Okay, I'm home all the time.
Yes, you wanted a cup of coffee.
There are a lot of people that are on fixed income, and it's gonna hurt. I mean, we're just talking even 10, 15 bucks.
I know what you're saying.
Hurt their bottom line.
Yeah.
But compared to anything else that would raise our property taxes, like we couldn't disperse over such a large
Right,
amount.
but what I'm saying is, the elderly,
And this is an old community.
Yep.
it is. I work in summertime, going to the lawns.
Yeah.
So
My mother lives over on Platt Street, fixed income. This same, this is the most economical solution that.
And I don't want my mother-in-law living with me, I'm sorry, but.
That's on camera.
Yeah. I'm not gonna comment. My mother-in-law just left.
I think it already has. Probably in trouble.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to add, because misnomers out there online.
Yes, a lot.
This is not considered a revote because it's a whole new proposal, whole new number. I know it was talked about when it failed the vote, a bunch of community members came together and asked about revoting. How do we petition? And I had reached out to Jenny Prosser at the State of Vermont Municipal Assistance, and she gave me a good reply and told me how it would have happened. It would have taken 2/3 of the people who said, so the winning vote then was no, and it was like 172 people. It would have taken 2/3 of registered voters of Swanton Village, about 85 petition signers, to cast a re-vote. At that time, it didn't happen. It would have been 30 days also. So there was no time for that with the information given, but regardless, it worked out better for me this way, I think, because by not having a revote, these guys lowered their prices, and now it is a new vote. But I do have one question left, because this is a new vote. Say it fails or passes, whether it's yay or nay, the people have the right, I know this, to petition to overturn votes. That's what the revote is, and you need that 2/3 majority of the failed pass. Since this is a new vote, and not the same as the last one, it does not count as a revote. If it passes and people are against that, can they do the revote? Can they get the petition going out for 2/3 of those numbers to say, no, we want a revote, and let's get, a revote, or the opposite? No, it doesn't pass, again, different vote, but again, it doesn't pass. Can the people do a petition like they were trying to do the first time for that 2/3 percentage to revote this same bond? And go.
I don't believe if this time
Not the
it doesn't-
latter.
Right, if this time it fails again, we can't do anything for 12 months.
Correct.
Okay.
If it passes, I think they can still petition
That is correct.
to not,
That's right.
to have it overturned, I believe.
I believe so
But-
as well.
We would have to, like, after the vote, and one of those scenarios happens is when, or the first scenario happens, we already know what the second one is a no, but the first one happened, that was be something that we would have to research the process. If somebody wanted to petition to have it overturned.
Correct.
'Cause
Are you talking about
I
the
don't
first
think-
time?
If it passes and people want to petition to have it overturned, that's what, I'm not sure of the procedure, because it would have already gone up to vote twice. If it fails, we're done for a year.
That's correct.
We can't bring it forward again for a year.
Well, because this is the same, it's different with numbers, so
But
it's
it's
not
still
a
the same
revote, it's a separate
project.
vote.
But it's still the same project.
But it's still the same project. I know you mentioned that earlier, this is the last time you can ask. And that's what you mean, within 12 months. Is that just a general rule for municipalities, that you can only basically ask
It's
twice
in
for the same thing?
It's in the bond statutes. It's legally, that's all we can do.
Thank you for the info.
At the end of the day, project costs tend to increase 5% or so a year. In the last 10 years, they've probably gone up 30%. It's been incredible, scary price increases in the last 5 to 10 years. And like I said, historically, they go up. So the sooner you act, the better the bang for the buck you're gonna get. If you have a need, the voters need to decide if this is a true need. I think it's been proven that there's a lot of benefits to this project that weren't considered before, that are intangibles, like the other departments that are gonna benefit here, and future needs of the town are gonna be met for a fraction of the cost of what it would cost to build that new footprint in the future. And people weighing all the pros versus the cons, I think it's a pretty clear need for the village electric department for the next 50 years to give them what they need to work efficiently.
You know, to increase your taxes by being able to move your other departments and give them the room that they need without increasing your taxes.
It's an overall cheaper solution, taxes, those will never go backwards, rates will never go backwards, but rates are much lower to pay than taxes. And then other things are calculated on taxes. Can you sell your place if you wanna move out, if your taxes are even higher, that's even a problem too. Thank you guys for looking at the numbers and coming down, the
Well,
805.
to be clear, it was a joint discussion and a reduction in scope. It wasn't us, we weren't sharpening our pencils, we were eliminating scope.
Right.
Because, we're not at the point where we have fine enough detail to sharpen our pencils. We're not there yet. We'll do that in due time. But, as I said earlier, our incentive is to get the project to a palatable number that works for everybody. If we don't have a project, we don't have a job. We're in the business of building things, not doing estimates.
So. True. Close this motion, get a motion to close it.
Okay, number 9. No, wait.
Number 12.
Number 12. Motion to close public hearing for the electric bill.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second to close the public hearing for the proposed electric facility. Any further discussion?
I'll save it for online.
Oh.
Good things, don't worry.
Siobhan.
Hey, utilize what we have, at least, you know.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried to end the discussion for public hearing on the proposed electric facility. And thank you all so very much for coming. And people can still call in to get absentee ballots, I believe.
Yes.
So if you,
We're getting close to the time where Diane will mail them, they'll have to come and get them,
okay,
because the mail system,
do we know the deadline? for that?
no, I don't.
Okay,
It'll probably be,
Friday, the late
yeah,
Thursday.
I would say Thursday, Friday
Thursday.
this week.
okay, up next week.
No.
No,
Next
that's
week.
This week,
Okay.
it's next Tuesday.
Can I ask?
Yeah, right.
The flyer says vote by absentee ballot by calling the office at 868-3397 and requesting one, or stop by and vote early, so.
Yes.
You can do
Can I
that as
just
well.
stop in
Yeah.
So you
Stop
can
in
stop
You
it.
come right in this room.
anytime, I don't have to
Yep.
wait till
Correct.
Yep.
the day, okay?
Yep.
So vote at your convenience between now and the actual voting day.
If I'd like to come and see the
You can do that as well. And you can stick around for the rest of the meeting. So we should move, we gotta go to
Yep.
number 7 now.
Number
I see
7.
Tim Smith is in the
I
house.
see Tim showed up at 7.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yep.
Thank you very much,
Tim, we'll
everyone.
reset the table for you here, so you can come up and present.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Sean, appreciate it. You too, if you want these, Steve. Okay. Thank you. That's all. Yeah. So we'll go right here, that's good, that's perfect, you don't want it too far back.
We get the smart meters at like here. Over here. Expand now.
What is this number? I don't have, let's see agendas over there.
This is number 9, FCIDC update.
Number
with
7.
Smith. Or 7, sorry. We both like 9 tonight.
I think so.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Smith?
Am I on?
Who's on?
Ready?
And
Number 7, are we?
Sorry, by the way,
Nice to meet you.
What's that?
we've moved all of our meetings to 6 PM now, sorry.
Oh, you did?
We have, yes. Yeah.
Same place.
It's been a little bit.
I was with the Georgia Flag Board at 6.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm hoping Sheldon didn't move theirs earlier. We'll see when I get there. Thanks for having me. As many of you know, I try to get around to all the select boards at least once a year, if not more than that, to talk about what FCIDC does. Not all of it pertains directly to the village. It does pertain to Swanton and the region. I'm a firm believer that most everything in the county impacts
Yes,
all the towns in one way or the other between employment and all of that. So, couple things, Bill and I have been in conversations about Swan Valley cheese, in terms of, decommissioning their lagoons. And I'm gonna be reaching out to you, Chris Atito from Swan Valley wants to pull together a meeting of, environmental conservation, brownfields, all of that, to see how we can potentially decommission those lagoons if need be. What that does is a long ways out, but if they do get decommissioned and then excavated, that opens up 7 acres, I guess it is, in the town for future development. There's some other issues relative to landlocked and whatnot, but we've been in discussion with Brian Savage as well. So we'll be having a call, just trying to see how do we move that cart forward, so that we can sort of close down the lagoons and free up the building for it, because no one's gonna buy the building if they have to take over the lagoons, unless they're a value-added food, cheese manufacturer type thing. Beyond that, no one's gonna have any interest in it.
So hoping you had somebody that had interest in it.
Yeah, exactly. So in.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Could they use that lagoon for like, a brewery?
yes,
So could that be an option, that they have a
It could-
brewery
it could
that
be.
could be
it could be an option.
interested?
Yeah.
I love where you're going with this. So, you know, I've been talking about a brewery. It's not about the drinking, but that's a good thought.
The, it's quite a facility and quite a piece of infrastructure for.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's the hardest part, is for a brewery, is having a lagoon.
Yeah.
and I would just add that, that's an option for Perigo as well, down the line, Perigo.
Right.
It's been thrown around that that would be ideal for a brewery as well. They have treatment lagoons in addition. So depending on who it is, I think the issue with Latito is how long can they wait, right, before they, right now they're maintaining the lagoons. From my understanding, it costs them about $18,000 a year just to maintain the lagoons. So the question.
Who is maintaining them?
A company by the name of Simon Treatment, they're a subcontractor that does
I
a
heard
lot.
that Perigo was closing in a couple of years,
Perigo is
closing,
closing.
so.
27. But the question is for the owner of the building, how long can he wait before he either finds a brewer or closes it down and finds another use for the building?
Is that part of your job to kind of bring in more
Yeah,
development for us?
easier said than done, but yes.
Don't wanna throw it at you like,
No,
but still.
But you're right, no, we've had some inquiries, so we, and the state's well aware of it as well. More inquiries go through the state than they go through my office, but the state would bring them to the table as well.
Well, it's a viable piece of property for someone.
No, you're right. So, and that's part of the discussion that we'll be having moving forward. So, the other thing is, I keep pointing to Bill, we interact quite a bit. Last week was the apprenticeship day that we were one of the partners that, participated in it. I hung out for a couple hours. Bill, I guess I'd be curious to get your take on it, but basically we had about 45 businesses there promoting their training and whatnot, and job opportunities. And mainly for 8th and 9th graders from, as I said, the entire county. Many of you know, college's price is getting exorbitant and people are looking at other alternatives, whether it's a trades, public service, whatever the case may be. MBU or BFA did a survey of 186 kids. 45% only had an interest in going to college. So you had 55%, 55%, sorry, I need to work on my math. 55% are looking at other alternatives, whether it's military, the trades, apprenticeships, whatever it is, because I think that the price of college is scaring a lot off, and that's what that opportunity was. 8th and 9th grade is early, yes. But I think what we're seeing is that, what we hear and read is that you have to get to kids early to sort of get them thinking about what the options are moving forward. For the older grades, the 6th and 7th, or excuse me, the 11th and 12th graders, we're doing business tours. This coming week, we're taking 20 kids from Milan, and it can be kids from MBU, BFA Fairfax, Enosburg, or Richford. Richard Barwin up here at the high school is doing a great job, so getting kids signed up and getting them through the program. MBU always has representation at those tours. And the nice thing is they go through the tours and they interact with people who are MBU graduates, who are working in these manufacturers of value add or others. So we've been to Ray's Tubing and Dyes, we've been to Vermont Precision, we've been to Ben & Jerry's at Barry Callebaut, we went to Beta, they went to Border Patrol. So they've been to a number of different visits, and we usually take, on average, about 20 kids from the region to educate them about what's available to them. You know, as ironic, you had Mike and Sean here. We actually met with them last week. There are no vacant buildings in Franklin County. You have the Swan Valley one, and then you have the Vermont Brick one up off from 78. Both are in need of repairs, capital investment. But we have no, other than those two, we have no buildings to showcase for attracting new
Do you mean
business.
commercial buildings?
Commercial,
wise?
industrial buildings, yeah. So we're entertaining, we being Franklin County Industrial Development is entertaining constructing a 15,000 square foot. It's not large, but it'd be carved up in 2 or 3, so it would be more of a facility that will grow business. So we're looking at potentially doing the same thing you're doing. Can we afford to do 15,000? It's a pre-engineered metal building. And we're also looking at potentially selling some land within our industrial park, which would free up some capital for us to sort of reinvest. And we have had calls with the tariff discussions. We have had calls from Canadian businesses relative to a couple of them are looking at assembly plants. So they would ship their parts down and then assemble and then sell within the States. So there's a couple opportunities where, you know, there's one, we met with a company that was brought here to the region by, for those that Adam Ruthier runs Finished Solutions. It's a powder coating facility. And he does a lot of business with a pool company that does a lot of those pool implements, you know, the flopping sunflower and the buckets of water and all that. So he powder coats that for the company. They wanted to be in Franklin County. We showed them space, land space, but they didn't want to wait 18 to 24 months to get in a new building. They left us, and 3 months later it was on the news. They signed and bought a new building, not a new building, they bought an existing building in Plattsburgh. It was vacant, and price was right, and they bought it. They wanted to be here, they like Adam, they like the work he does, but they just couldn't find the space that they needed to, so those are some of the hurdles that we face, for sure. Field days, people might ask about field days. Field days, I think, is still shopping around, looking for land. We did get a grant for them to cover legal costs and permitting. So if they do find land, it's a small grant, $25,000, that could be utilized to help offset their closing of the property. So I think the last I knew they had interest on one, but I don't know what the outcome was on it. So small grant, we've done small grants for some of the Swanton businesses, missing pieces. I think we got them a $5,000 grant for their oven and whatnot to go into their new place. And then we had involvement in the Memorial Auditorium when that happened years ago as well. So I think those are, that's where we're focused. A lot of time is being spent in the schools, just trying to get the high school kids aware of the opportunities. And then, like I said, the apprentice station, once again, I'd like to get Bill's response, but I thought that was a pretty good success.
It was tremendous, and I want MV to do it every year because it's right up the road, but it was our police department, our electric department, hundreds of students. We were there all day. Believe it or not, the people interested for a change in law enforcement, albeit they're too young, that came to the table that were interested, exceeded the interest in the electric department. That never happens. It's part of my updates, but I'll get it now. We entered into a partnership with Vermont Works for Women, and they're gonna do a hybrid internship here this summer with hydroelectric, water, wastewater, and public works. So great, it's just a great opportunity, and we spend a lot of time together, and I can't say enough good things about Franklin County Industrial Development and all the things that they have going on. And it's that attack, it's the long game, but that plan of attack, getting those kids interested at an early stage in something other than college, when they clearly don't want to go to college, is great. And they come right up and tell you, they're not shy. I have no intention of going to college. These 8th, 9th, there were some 10th graders. What do you have to offer? That's their question. What do you have to offer? I'm like, that's great. Because they're in the driver's seat right now. They really are in terms of employment. So it's been a great relationship, and you owe me lunch for that. Yeah. It is your turn.
Any movement at all as far as anything new for the airport?
Well, I get a little confused with the airport, Adam, to tell you the truth. It was, Jim Harrison was looking at his development, and then Field Days was looking at buying it, but now I just received a site plan, so it's back to the development. So they have a site, Harrisons, do have a site plan in place. I think they're gonna start to market. We haven't touched base on it, but I think that's their plan moving forward now. For whatever reason, the Field Days fell through, so I think it's, I think it's highest and best use for sure. So that could prove to be, the thing I would caution folks on is, to Bill's point, economic development's a long game. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
you're not gonna, we should feel fortunate every time we attract a new business.
Yep.
Beta being in St. Albans is huge and could potentially grow. You look at what Vermont Precision Tools has done over, we've been working with them for 20 years and what they've been able to do. 20 years ago, they were at 113 employees, now they're at 250. It just, there's nothing quick about economic development.
No.
By the time you get the infrastructure in place, you've seen how long that takes, or it took relative to the airport to bring the water and sewer. And so it's a patient game for sure.
Yeah. Same thing with the border.
Right. Oh, thanks for that. So the border, kudos to Matt Walker, who's the chair of the Transportation Committee. We've been advocating for a welcome center between Swanton and the Highgate border for years now. And with Matt there, we're actually starting to make some headway. And we think that if you as you travel the state, every major thoroughfare into the state of Vermont has a welcome center. Down in on Route 4A, coming up 91, 87, or 89, there's a welcome center everywhere except coming in from 89.
I mean, even Albert has one.
And even Albert has one.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And there's what's a town in St. Johnsbury, small town, begins with W. And the population is probably 1,000. They have a welcome center off 91 coming in as well. But they, within an hour of the border, there's 5.5 million people. No other entrance into the state of Vermont is even close to that. Even if you threw in Albany, you're still not even close on the 4A or the 22A. You're just not, doesn't even come close. And I think it'd be huge for Swanton, it'd be huge for St. Albans, the islands, because they could catch them to go down through the islands before they go down to Burlington. So I think, Enosburg, Montgomery, I think if we could catch and educate folks about what's here in Franklin County, I think it would be big. But the negative side is, I don't think it's coincidence, but construction on the I-35, the last leg of the I-35 has been halted by the Canadian government. Say what you want, but that was huge. I mean, once completed, the estimates were 30% of your Champlain, New York traffic, and 30% of your Derby line traffic would choose to come down through Highgate. So that would have been a lot of more traffic, obviously, but that piece of the construction has been halted.
Can I actually ask a question about that? I saw the article on that. I remember everybody talking about how the truck traffic would lower if that was finished. The article also says, or people were saying that last 2 miles is paved. Or it's not, it's still.
It's wide, it's already wide as what the rest of the auto route is.
So why would paving it be the reason that vehicles would choose to go that way as opposed to why they're not now? I'm just curious.
Well, it's not connected to anything,
Okay.
because there is a roundabout that we're gonna connect into in Phillipsburg, and it's
Okay.
not that, there's no connection there. As
Okay,
far
that's
as
good
far
to
as
know.
I know.
I've
But-
never actually been on
Yeah.
that side.
I didn't understand
so
that
I don't
either.
physically
Thanks,
see it and don't know.
But they need to connect to the final leg, and they haven't done it.
That makes sense, you need the highway to continue
Yeah.
and not just
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense, thank you. Cause people are asking that, well, if it's
Yeah, it's
there
not-
and people already go, then why you don't
I think they
trucks
had
and
about
stuff
another year
over
of
there?
construction, is sort of what the number was.
Thank you.
Yep.
So finally completing the Bar Street Canal in Burlington, that's what's
Takes a while.
like
Yeah.
40
7
feet
years
from
old.
home Ave, right?
Right, yeah. I think that's decent summary of what we have going on. I can say that relative to the rest area, Secretary of Transportation Joe Flynn did send a letter to the federal GSA saying, look, you want some land, we want some land. I'm not sure how far that discussion went, but he's advocating for land to construct it. I don't think anyone, for the most part, has argued that we don't need one, or there shouldn't be one. I think Matt and his committee agree, and the governor agrees, so I think Joe Flynn agrees. So we'll keep advocating.
We will see.
Tim, do you know if the expansion of the US Highgate border crossing is still in the works?
As far as I know, it's still moving forward. Yep.
I can confirm that. They reached out to us recently to talk, and we had a dialogue about a water extension of our system to the Canadian border.
Just recently?
I promise you it's not going to happen based on cost estimates. Preliminary cost estimates are a minimum of $25 to $30 million.
Yeah.
And it's not feasible for them to do that.
But as far as I know, they're still moving forward.
Or is it?
No, I think
should be able
border
to find water
security
up
is gonna
there.
be a priority. I think it will be fast tracked, if anything, right now. Yeah.
I would think in that region they'd be able to find water.
Think.
Any questions?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Sorry for my tardiness. 6 o'clock though, right? Is that-
From now on, 6
no,
o'clock.
it's all right.
But now you know.
That's just fine.
I think we're gonna keep
Blame
it,
me for that.
I think we're gonna keep it there forever, aren't we?
Yeah.
Board of
How's that gonna
Trustees? Oh,
I got your text at 6:03. I think, well, maybe they're starting earlier than that.
yeah, sorry about that. We got to that point, we're like, where is he?
I'm hoping Sheldon still starts at 7:30.
Yeah.
You gotta go there next?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's my trifecta.
say hi to Sheldon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Have a good night.
You
Good night.
too.
Number 13, review and acknowledge first quarter SQUIRP report for 2025.
The trustees have reviewed and acknowledged the first quarter SQRP report for 2025.
What does SQRP stand for?
Service, Municipal Utility Service Quality and Reliability Plan Reporting Form.
And I just want to give a shout out to the ladies in the office
Yep.
and the line crew for perfect scores.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, this is still me. No.
Yeah. Your turn, Cindy.
So, I would like to use the park, the Village Green Park, for 3 events this summer. On the 30th of May, I'd like to have a family night from 5:30 to 9:30, have a band. Third shift is the band I have tentatively scheduled. The library will have face painting and the rec's gonna bring cornhole. And then on 8/22, we're gonna do the same thing. And I've got Nighthawk coming for that. And then on 7/25, I'd like to do another block party. I've got Minced Oats, a band out of St. Albans, coming for that. We're gonna get a bouncy house, we're gonna do cornhole, face painting, the whole thing whole shebang we did last year, except for, we're not gonna do like the cards, with the money on it, since we're not trying to get extra funds into the downtown businesses. We're just gonna have, the ones who wanna be open, and the ones who don't,
Yep.
not be, and that's fine, so. So do I need a motion to be able to use the village green, or just I can use it? 'Cause
Put it on
You're
the
the board
calendar.
of trustees, we add it to the
Put it on
calendar.
the calendar.
How do these
Just have
events
Diane
get
put it on the
funded?
calendar.
So like who's paying for the band?
Okay, so for the band, so SAC, the Arts Council, is gonna pay for one of the bands. One of the other bands, we got a $500 donation from E.J. Barrett's to pay for that band. And then the last band is a combination of money from the village and money from SAC. Cause we put in our budget $250 for music in the park. So, and then we'll get the other $250 from SAC.
Wonderful, thank you.
So that was May 30th.
So May 30th, the band is gonna be third shift. 7:25, the band is Minced Oats. So third shift's like classic rock, Minced Oats like bluegrass, country. And then 8:22 is Nighthawk. And I think a lot of people are familiar with, they play.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Very nice.
Cool.
Just have Diane put it on the calendar.
Okay. Number 15, village manager update.
Okay, we talked briefly about the apprenticeship fair, so we got really good press in the Messenger article. They interviewed us, we talked to them. Again, really looking forward to increasing our reach. We should have more women employed by the Village of Swanton. So I'm hoping this internship actually leads to something. A little bit frustrating in the conversations because they're like, well, how many openings do you have? And we're like, 2 in the police department. And they're not interested in an internship there, but we always have occasional openings, so we're hoping that we can get somebody in here for sure through this program. They're gonna come and tour all 4 facilities, and then the 4 department heads plus myself have to take this internship training to make sure we're a good match. So we'll do that in mid-June, and the internship is in June and July. Moving on to Public Works. It's a continuing saga of our street sweeper, because it was working this morning, and now it's not again. We have the vendor coming tomorrow. So there's an electrical problem with it. We're trying to determine exactly what it is. We get it up and running. We thought we were good this morning. We was actually picking up dirt better than it has. We're fine tuning our operation. So we asked for the public's patience while we fine tune the operational aspects of this while identifying what the electrical problem is. So it's under warranty. The vendor's coming in to look at it tomorrow afternoon, and fingers crossed. But I assure you, Board of Trustees, I'm all over the vendor. And if there's such thing, I'm not saying this yet, it's only happened a couple times, but if there's such thing as a lemon law, like for street sweepers, I will pursue that aggressively. I don't know that there is. We talked last time about the delineators in the village. So those are essentially what are curb stops marked that with upright delineators in the square in front of Merchants Row.
Yellow things.
Yes, the yellow upright traffic delineators. So great feedback, and even better feedback for the ones that are in front of Merchants Row, because people were literally just cutting that corner right where those first parking spots are, where there's no parking, but literally people were coming up the hill, we were watching them do it, and shooting right across in front of
But
Merchants
that's where
Row.
I parked when I watered the flowers.
If you put your 4-ways on and you look like you're in official capacity, now you have a protected parking spot. And I said
Go around
that-
a little and
And I
back
said
out.
that on camera. We will have to give you a blue light tour when you water flowers in that area. But it seems like the feedback, I think some of you have heard it, it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
It dresses it up a little bit.
It does.
Only one guy wanted concrete barriers.
Yeah, so far I'm pretty glad that we've avoided that.
Honestly, it's more noticeable that the
I
tall
wanna
ones
put
are there,
flowers on
but
them, remember?
having the black line of them like along there, like it's way more noticeable coming
Yeah.
up that.
It dissuades people
With the
from
reflectors
hitting
on
them.
those, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it won't
definitely.
wreck your car. You'll know you hit it because they are bolted down into the asphalt. So they're pretty rugged. And so far,
So far, so good?
so far so good. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Our summer mowing crew returns soon because the grass needed mowing as early as today. And Public Works was out there. Of course, they don't have time to do that full time. They have a very full slate this summer. And we have Gary Bouchard, close to 50 years, was not enough, so he's coming back part-time to mow.
Oh, yeah?
Joined by Brian Thompson, another veteran. So we have those two guys
All right.
back in action. They work 8 hours a day on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's the game plan at this point.
Very nice.
And then we'll do hydrant flushing within the next few weeks, but we'll make sure the folks in the village have advance notice so they know what to expect, because it's gonna impact your water. Speaking of public works, we talked last meeting about Dewey Street and the repeated leaks and the really the difficulty for us to keep up with that. Heidi was here talking about grants, and we had identified that project, if we bid and went to an outside vendor, would cost $75,000. We're gonna do it in-house in October at the end of the season schedule with 100% of public works work, and we can do it for less than 25,000. So again, that's another example of, do we really have time to do it? Probably not, but if we could save the
Taxpayer dollars.
the taxpayers some money, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, so where is that gonna go from the end of the street?
Yep.
One end to the next?
Yeah.
To the very end?
It's only 360-foot project. So Dewey
I know, I
Street's.
live there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, so you're gonna be excited about
wait, my
this.
street's
So yes,
getting
you're gonna
torn
get a
up.
new water line, because when I tell you it's repaired, I'm simplifying this, it's not. It's like duct tape, but they're wrapping the pipe repeatedly, just to get by. And there's quite a few streets like that, but this is one that we can do ourselves. We could save 66% of the cost of going to a vendor.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense for us to do it internally. So October, let's go first week of October is our goal. Jones Court Stormwater. So the trustees, you have received in advance a draft proposal. So for you folks in the crowd, we have 2 3-acre rural properties in the village of Swanton that we're responsible for. One we're sitting on right now, the other is Jones Court. So you've all received this electronically. This is just a bigger blown up version. We can pass it around to the crowd that's here. Anything in yellow are basically sand filters, and this is the proposal that will be submitted to the homeowners association, well, there's no association, to all the Jones Court residents next step. So if the trustees, I know you saw this in advance, but this is one you can read.
I could read that way.
We don't really need a motion. We simply need just an acknowledgement that the next step is for us to share this with the Jones Court homeowners,
Yeah.
have a dialogue, then this would get submitted to the state of Vermont, and they would bless the plan. So
it's just a French drain.
that's all it is. So for clarity's sake, we received 2 $49,900 grants from the state of Vermont. One for a stormwater engineering for here, one for Jones Court. The unknown for every community in Vermont is who is going to pay for this solution. And right now, there's a discussion at the State House, but we have 5 years. Once the design is signed off on by the state, the clock starts ticking, we have 5 years. So we have 4.5 years to figure out what we're gonna do here, and over 5 years to figure out what we're gonna do there. With the hope of the state of Vermont saying, we have identified a pool of money that we can help to defray these costs.
That's for all the flooding that happens over there, right?
It's stormwater retention, anything over 3 acres of impervious surface. You're required now by law to mitigate with a stormwater solution.
And there's,
So-
and I'm sure there'll still be conversations, around the groundwater issue there as well, so.
This is peak priorities.
Yeah.
So are we okay with giving permission for these guys to send to the Jones Court homeowners?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Come
Should I continue?
here. Do you have more?
I have more.
Yeah, go ahead.
More? God, there's always more.
6 pages.
Okay, yeah.
This is Spring Street, where Adam lives.
I don't think I can continue right.
Well, we can.
One of these two places is moving. This is Jones' house.
Oh, okay.
That's true. Like,
Jones Court, the one that has this, like a Abenaki totem at the end.
No.
Get the idea.
Let's get the item.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
It's down on Spring Street.
Oh,
That's Monument Road.
thank you. That makes sense. Monument.
Hey, so when you were talking about Vermont Works for Women, I think that's different than what Rubina. Same?
She works
10
there.
10 people? She told me 10 participants for a build project for 20 hours.
Oh, I don't know how many they're gonna send us. I'll take as many as they can give us,
Okay.
but
This is what
she
she
didn't
told
have a
me.
number yet.
She said build project starting 6/2,
Mhm.
10 participants.
Jeez, we don't even do the
20
online
hours.
training until mid-June. Okay.
I think the class is starting 6/2.
Oh, gotcha, yeah, okay. Okay, moving to our hydroelectric facility, I think I talked briefly, we're in run-of-river mode April 1st through May 31st, and up to this point, we have maximized production, and we've been spilling all except for a few hours during that entire time. I think we talked about Unit 2 continuing to have a vibration, so Unit 2 is the only turbine that is not functioning right now. The week of May 19th, if all goes well and water levels recede, we will shut the plant down for a couple, not the plant, but at least that section. Essentially the plant, the water's low enough. For getting down into that scroll cage and examining the turbine, and we have to be dewatered to do that.
Yeah.
So all but Unit 5. Unit 5
Right,
will be
'cause Unit
operational.
5's yeah.
Separate penstock.
Right.
So again, all the other units are functioning and functioning exceptionally well. We're producing a max of 8.7 megawatts a day.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's been pretty consistent. So again, that generally, by the way, covers the load for all 3,800 customers unless we're in an absolute peak time, which means that we get a facility that's paying the bills, which is why we haven't had a rate increase for that long. Moving over to Swanton Electric, automated metering infrastructure. So all the meters are in except for a few. We are now in the process where we have to do some mailers. That's already happened. How many routes?
So right now, they're on the back side of your bills. There's a explanation of the meter, the automatic meter reading, and like the process. What will happen going forward is we're getting ready to mail door hangers. 2 to 3 days prior to us going out to install the meter, there'll be a door hanger on your door saying that we will be here in the next few days. When the day comes that we come in and actually change out your meter, they'll hang another door knocker to say one of several things. We have either successfully switched your meter over, or we ran into a problem, we need to make an appointment to come back. Or, there's a place where we can put notes. Dwayne is estimating it'll be less than 15 minutes. Because basically we're gonna take down all the information we need as far as the final read and everything on the old meter before we disconnect it. So it's a matter of them pulling the meter out, putting the new one in, putting a new seal on. So in reality, he said it's 5 minutes or less, but we gotta give a window, so we're saying less than 15 minutes.
He wanted the notices to say 30 seconds to a minute, and we're like, you can't say that, because something might go wrong.
Are both crews going out together and like hitting
Oh, yeah.
at the same, maybe somebody comes to my house, somebody goes to my neighbor's house, and then okay.
Zones or, yeah.
Yep, that's the game plan, so that'll happen soon. The beauty of this automated metering infrastructure is you may not detect for a long period of time a leak in your system, wherever it is, toilet, whatever it is, a leaky faucet. This will do it for you, and we'll get notification. We'll say, hey, something's going on at your house because your rate increase has gone up and you're losing money as a result of it. So
We'll see it on
That's the
both.
water meter part.
Yeah, so that's on the water meter. We'll see it on the electric side too. The water meters are gonna be a little bit slower to
Yep.
transition over.
Right.
Because that, we're gonna have to physically go into your house, because we're changing the meter out
Yes.
completely.
Yeah.
So that we actually will have a contractor, there's a plumbing contractor that we're gonna use. And they're the ones that'll be scheduling the
Right.
appointments, with the homeowners in order to get access to.
yeah, I did change gears from electric meters to water meters on you pretty quick, but we want to move forward with both as soon as we can.
So
What happens
basically
if you
there'll be,
refuse?
You can. Nothing.
Nothing?
No. You lose out on the ability to have trends recognized that could save you money. So that's what you miss out on, but there's no punitive punishment. You can opt out.
Then you'll be responsible going down, checking your meter, giving them the numbers and so on.
No.
No, because you still have that little black
Yeah.
clippy thing.
Right.
yeah,
You know
you'll
how
still have
soon
to,
you guys are gonna roll out the new meters?
How are we
You
doing on
can't say.
software? We're not sure yet. There's some software
Yeah,
tweaks that
we're
have to be
having some-
finalized.
We're having weekly meetings with the software, and there's
Okay.
some of this going on.
Mhm.
And I thought Dwayne was gonna go linear today, because there's something they asked about, has been asked about for 3 weeks in a row.
Okay.
And he's just like, you need to tell me that they haven't sent it yet. It's slower than what I'd like as far as dealing with because you're talking with actually 3 different software companies. Our billing software, the AMI software company, and then our GIS, which is called Empower, because the GIS is what is gonna talks to our billing system, but talks to the Aclara. And that, all 3 kind of have to work together. So you're dealing with 3 separate companies. And we're the first ones out the gate for VEPSA.
Yep.
We're the first VEPSA utility to go through this. So probably the ones after us, some of that, the Aclara Empower stuff there's gonna be a relationship there already. So it's a little bit of a frustration on our part, because it's not going as fast as we'd like. But
so,
we'll get there.
Are you saying we're the first electric company in
So,
Vermont? to-
No,
No,
we're
no,
the
first of the municipal,
Municipally owned.
The
Okay.
VEPSA
Yeah,
municipals,
VEPSA,
yeah, because there's, Stowe already
Yeah.
has it, VEC, WEC, GMP, they've all, in
Mhm.
Burlington, all have AMI already. We're the first of the VEPSA members that will be getting it.
so brief electrical outage for meter transport, and then eventually brief water outage for water meter.
yep,
And there'll be more
Minutes.
people.
correct. Yep.
Cool.
Okay, moving on to last fall, the Board of Trustees approved the purchase of fiber installation that we needed. So Crossbow Communication staged last week, and they started today. So again, that gives us all the ability for fiber optic to enhance things on our electrical system, like switches, SCADA, the ability to communicate within our system for certain controls. So that also allows us to do the long-awaited security project at water, wastewater, anything that is enterprise-driven, hydroelectric. So better ability through fiber to have better security to include at Marble Mill. So Marble Mill is part of it, shooting across from the river, really both ways. The tennis courts, both ways up front, the pole adjacent to the VFW. So gives us a much better security picture for when the vandalism happens, because we know it does. But we're gonna have it on a nice high-def camera now, which will help.
Like tonight, so pop
And
in.
no surprises, by the way. We're gonna notify people. We don't want people to not know there's security down there. They're under surveillance.
Yeah.
Nobody's actively watching it, by the way. It's not bad. We'll be able to go back and look for back to 30 days and identify if people are up to no good. And the lights are up at Marble Mill, so that
How does this
should be
work?
good.
I know it's up down, but I don't know it's half were on and half were off, or do they time or?
Oh, they should all be on, so that's good to know.
Okay.
No, they're all on
All right.
photoelectric sensors.
They were all on last night.
Oh, they were? Okay. Yeah, if they're not, then.
No, I went down the other night, and just the far side you can see from the side was on, and the other side opposing it
Oh, yeah.
wasn't lit at all. So
That's weird.
But you're
4
saying just
o'clock,
I'll look
for,
into
they're all
it.
off.
So, because they're so
Yeah.
cost-efficient LED lights
sleep on.
from dusk to dawn, or close proximity, it should be lit up.
Yep.
And that's so people can enjoy it, and Pickleball Nation can have midnight tournaments if they want to.
Even half lit up, it was
Yeah.
like bright.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip water, because that's my show and tell. I'm gonna go to wastewater. So, since the only 2 people in the room that were citizens that attended our wastewater open houses, we wanna invite Ollie, but in particular, the 2 of you, to come down and see the progress. So we're having a special Board of Trustees meeting on the 19th at 4 o'clock. No other agenda other than to take a tour of the updates at the halfway point. So the big thing was last Tuesday night at 10 p.m. till about 2 a.m. The bypass, the force main bypass. Kingsbury had 4 pump trucks. We had our Vector truck, and they kept up despite flows at 500,000 gallons, 400,000 plus at least, without any problem. And it took about 90 minutes to reconnect the main pipe. So now no longer comes out of the ground and up in angles. It's the connection of the main pipe back to the lagoon. So that is a major part of the project,
Yeah.
done, buried, and over with.
Nice.
So that's good.
We talked about wastewater off from 36.
Yes.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
I mowed around that thing for a summer. I don't like the snakes.
Oh, there's a lot of snakes.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
And turtles.
Yeah. Oh, there are.
I got a meeting then.
And frogs.
Snakes?
No, I'm not
You do?
good with that.
Okay.
You don't even really see it.
So
Little snakes.
I can see
where
it.
we're going, we're not going to walk the lagoons. That's snake heaven.
Yeah.
We walk around the lagoons
You're
for
gonna
sure.
stay up.
So the next big news is the centrifuge
Oh, yeah.
engineering is complete. The GEA person comes back on the 5th and 6th of May. That's the structural engineer. On May 12th, the mechanical engineer will come to commission the unit. And after that, if it passes, it's running.
Perfect.
And we are now, so that's the real important part of dewatering our sludge that we've been unable to do for a long time. And it's just, it's compounding our problem with sludge depths in the lagoon, in particular the right side. So
How much
lots
do you
going
think
on.
They increased,
Oh, nothing like, more like,
with
more
the
like,
centrifuge being,
yeah, no, minimal, we hope. But, you know, Mother Nature does most of the work. That's why we love the bugs down there, and
the
that's why the aerators are there, and, you know,
The
it's,
more frogs and snakes you see,
The better.
the better for sure. Yeah. We talked about annexation very briefly, but again, it's all the way through both committees unanimously. It's
Okay.
through the House, onto the Senate. I don't know what would prevent it from happening, so.
So by
Let-
summer.
Yeah. Let's move on to water. This is the show and tell part. So our water plant, and if you want to tour this, anybody in the room, you let me know. So our water comes from Lake Champlain, comes up under the road, goes into our water plant, goes first into an area at the front of both of these large filters. So if you picture a rectangular tank about twice the size of this, lengthwise, maybe 2/3 again, this big. It goes into an area, and you can come up and hang out with these if you want after. It goes into these beads, and it gets treated chemically. These beads actually take out the majority of the stuff. We recently, so we talk about turbidity all the time. You want to talk about the technology. So I printed this out for the board. This is before we replaced the medium, which is sand, special sand, and anthracite. So in each of these filters, and you switch back and forth as needed, there is 14 inches of sand, which is heavier, so it goes to the bottom, and 18 inches of this. The water cycles through the beads, through the filter, then it's high quality H2O like the water boy, and it's good to go, and it goes to our citizens. So during high turbidity, we get all these alarms, and I talk all the time and update the board how our folks get called in. This is a high turbidity. And after we updated the medium, this is the after effect, this is how functional it is. So to give you an idea, normal bags, they're like 40-pound bags. To do both, we had to add 210 bags of sand and 107 bags of anthracite. So again, feel free to take a look at that. I think you all are very familiar with the operation, but if anybody wants to look at these, they can look at that. So needless to say, what I really love about this job is the variety of what every day brings, and every single department has a tremendous amount going on. And including, I know you weren't here for the last one, but since we brought Heidi Brich-Valenta on board, we've received and secured about $7.5 million in grants, with another $15 million in the queue in 18 months. That's the good news. The bad news, and it's not bad news, is that produces a tremendous amount of workload on all of the various departments in the organization. But everybody's embracing it, and can't say enough good things. So great board support, great crew working here, and it's still my dream job.
Yeah, people haven't seen the water treatment facility down on Swamp Shore. It's really fascinating.
That's all I have, but I think that's probably enough.
It's clean, it's tidy,
is.
it's unbelievable.
No, you get it wrong. It's not the water plant, it's the golf course.
The golf course.
What?
Todd, he mows it like.
Oh, he does. He's taken over mowing. Yes, that's a good thing.
You know, it's cleanest public works facility I think I've ever seen.
It is. Yeah, that's all I have.
Nice.
Did you ever appoint anybody to the regional planning commission?
He's been officially nominated and he is accepted.
Yeah.
Yep.
First meeting is a couple days.
Yep.
Congratulations. I'm just curious.
What's next?
So, we want a brewery.
Yeah.
At the old cheese plant.
That would be
Or another
nice.
cheese plant.
That would be good.
I don't know if they really, that's not their scope.
It is not.
Their stuff.
It is not. That's Tim's scope.
Yeah.
Number 16.
Number 16, any other necessary business?
No, I have nothing.
I have a question. When these new meters come in, what happens to the meter reader?
Oh, so the meter reader right now is overworked, and he additionally does other things. So what is gonna happen is, the meter reader is gonna be retrained to some degree to do some additional responsibilities for the electric department. But the meter reading totally is not gonna go away.
Okay.
So, but we're gonna reutilize his skills for some other areas. But right now, our meter reader cannot keep up on a daily basis with
The
the
line
workload.
crew's having to do some of
Yeah.
the reading because he's in here dealing with the software a lot of the time with the AMI, but.
Just meter reading in a different way.
Well, we talked about this fairly openly. The one remaining weakness in our organization is IT. And while VEPSA supports us if it's specific to electric, we need help. It's the last thing that we really need to nail down, because cybersecurity is a real issue right now. So we're aware of it, just we can't find that in the budget right now, and we have to figure out a way to do it downstream.
Is this still public comment?
Go ahead.
I wanna know about the swans. Are we gonna purchase new swans?
Great question.
That's for the chamber.
That's the chambers.
That'll be a Chamber of Commerce.
Is that Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, but we don't know.
Because I noticed, the ARPA money went towards, the pond.
Yep,
Yeah.
to increase the size.
Right.
Yep.
We put in
But
a
the
portion.
ARPA money was part of the village.
We put in a portion and the town put in a portion to increase the Swan Pond per the request of Suzanne Washburn, who is a member of the chamber who takes care, who has the license, I believe, for the swans.
The Chamber has the license.
So it's
Chamber does?
the swans are the chambers. They're not ours or the town's.
Oh, really?
But we just gave some money to help with the project.
So any questions about the swans and whatnot should be directed
Talk
towards
to the
the
chamber.
swan.
To
The
Suzanne.
chambers and Suzanne Washburn
Yep.
or Mark Rush.
How often does the chamber meet?
Pardon?
How often does the chamber meet?
Every third Monday.
Every third Monday
Yep,
at the
5:30.
chamber office? But it's a very tiny building,
Yep.
so, just more, so I don't expect
Enough
you to
room
get
in there.
tons of people in there, but.
So fill it up. We got a big green space outside.
That's what I was thinking.
Bring your lawn chair.
Yeah.
So,
Gordon.
yeah, no, I just a couple quick things for me.
For the other business? Okay.
Again, the Memorial Day Parade is Monday, May 26th at 2 p.m. starting at Mary Babcock School. I'm looking for participants. Hopefully people will come out and support the parade. Joel Clark and I are co-chairing the event, I guess, so to speak. Swanton Fire will be doing a free barbecue for the community, so everything will be good to go there. And my only last thing is we have signs on the south end of the park.
I thought that was the north end that you're talking.
Yes, we have signs on the south end of the park, though.
Yes, the no
Yes.
parking.
The no parking signs.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to see if we can put a couple up on the north end of the park next to our historic tree, because we've got some,
So right now, there's the white, like no parking
Mhm.
lines
Yeah.
painted on, but there's still individuals who are parking there.
Okay.
correct. Yeah,
So
and it's
you're-
causing a lot of issues with people being able to
Some more yellow.
pull
things.
out,
Yeah. Okay.
so, and that's all I have.
What was the date for the event?
May 26th,
26th?
yep, Memorial Day. And obviously Flags for Veterans going up that Saturday, so,
Oh,
I'm
and we're
available
just,
to help if you need anything.
so I think we're gonna be good this year. I think we're
and
gonna be good.
hometown hero banners have been ordered, all proofs approved, we're just waiting for them to be shipped, and they'll start going up when our guys have time. Top of all the other stuff they're doing.
Speaking of flags and Joel, I ran into Joel and he was talking about the condition of the great flag at the end of the park. Thinks it needs to be updated. It's getting a little tattered.
Oh, he'd be absolutely right, if it's tattered, it needs to come
Yes.
down and we need to burn it, and it needs to
Yep.
be
So-
replaced.
I think it
So
was like
is that
those
ours,
2 years
is
ago.
that, cause, so do we have
Joint
another
maybe.
big flag, or can we purchase a big
Oh,
flag?
we can purchase one.
Thank you,
It's,
everyone, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Yeah, I think
Check
it,
with Dwayne, because I think he may have
he might
have one on hand.
So that's,
We always keep at least one flag
I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
giant.
By the
one.
Like what
goddess
size
of
do we, well,
liberty?
I would need to know what size.
That's where it is down there.
Yeah, I think it's by the goddess.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't
follow
need
up
to be
tomorrow.
as big as the fire department has for their ladder truck, so that's good, right?
I hope not.
So the one out front is the,
That takes some
I hope
the one out
breeze.
front is the biggest flag that we
Yeah.
order right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I'll-
something that size, I would think.
I'll look into it tomorrow.
It's gonna be
Okay.
4x8 anyway, right? Cool. There, at least, yeah. So is that the end?
That's it.
That's the end, and there's no executive session?
No executive
And
session?
this is really the end. So we're going to adjourn,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
first and second. Any further discussion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried to adjourn. It was a long one.
If anyone.